Trill my alpha, AGS Damari. Y'all know what time it is. Place your bets. Source up and shut up. Alpha Villain Debate Coliseum, you pseudo sideline. Yeah, I got plenty motion. You blind, leading the blind. I'm in the HOK, sourced up and ready. I got the drop on every op. Yeah, who wanna test me? Debate Coliseum, you pseudo sideline. Yeah, I got plenty motion. You blind, leading the blind. I'm in the HOK, sourced up and ready. I got the drop on every op. Yeah, who wanna test? Stepper with a cane and top had to match. A Lord of Ice, supreme ruler, that's right in his act. Double or nothing, 2 for 1. That's how I'm coming. Do the math and do the knowledge. I'm March 100. And I stay rapping at 5. Who wanna see me live? Got a murder man vibe. Bodies in my archive. When I up my source, just up the score cause it's a rap. And I be that more. You don't remember he was cap caught blabber lacking in his babble. Ran down on him. The real driller from Manila. I stood over homie. I took his fares. He was fake and he was false flag. And I'm here to rep that right way. And I'ma keep spazzing. Behind my people I stand on business. Yeah, I'm crashing out. And if you cross my golden path, yeah, I'm flashing out. Got a bucket list of future bodies in my inventory. My peer reviews are undisputed. You can keep the glory. Every appeal to authorities just to cry for help. And intellectual cowards, they die 1,000 deaths. Who really want it with me? I stay war ready. Round for round, got 100 slides. Who wanna test me? Debate Coliseum, you pseudo sideline. Yeah, I got plenty motion. You blind, leading the blind. I'm in the HOK, sourced up and ready. I got the drop on every op. Yeah, who wanna test me? Debate Coliseum, you pseudo sideline. Yeah, I got plenty motion. You blind, leading the blind. I'm in the HOK, sourced up and ready. I got the drop on every op. Yeah, who wanna test me? Godfather green light, I'ma whack 'em all. It's time to clean up the platform and tax 'em all. Know it like you owe it, the elders sent me for it. Retaliation is a must and that Canopa's bogus. It's pseudo killer be killed when I'm in the battlefield. They say steel sharp and steel, my real isn't real. Yeah, this that simmer talk and I'm ready to drill. Train to go and fully equipped to break that Roman seal. Grinding the powder and get power to the masses. If it's smoke, then it's smoke, I'ma get axed. Tell them come with it. Done did it, we split it, they can all get it. I got 7 deadly venoms, been sick with it. I can behead them in public and still get acquitted. I put in work on house niggas and tell them I hit them. I'm that runaway slave they wanna capture. I took the whip from his hand and punished master. He's just another widow son of a bastard. I wage war on infidels and call them kafirs. If sa.neter give me that card in your chapter. Knowledge is power, test mine and I'ma smash it. Coliseum, you pseudo sideline. Yeah, I got plenty motion. You blind, leading the blind. I'm in the HOK, sourced up and ready. I got the drop on every op. Yeah, who wanna test me? Debate Coliseum, you pseudo sideline. Yeah, I got plenty motion. You blind, leading the blind. I'm in the HOK, sourced up and ready. I got the drop on every op. Yeah, who wanna test me?
Come on, man, y'all gotta stop talking when I'm putting my sound effects on. I'm saying oh for a reason. You see that young champion, the future champ in the building, god damn it. He ain't afraid to pop up in this mud, huh? He ain't afraid. Y'all playing yourself. That's right. Yeah, what you talk that talk. The man didn't ask you nothing about what's important. He's asking you, he's challenging you to do something. Okay, he ain't asking y'all, is it important? Y'all was talking that bungo shit. The man popped up. He's challenging y'all.
Yeah. Peace and black power. Y'all already know what it is. We got my man, Kemetian Adept in the building once again. Once again, man, he's here. And y'all already know what he came to do. Akhenaten, prototype, Islamic monotheism. The Aten, Ahad, Allah connection with Kemetian Adept, man. This is going to be one that I don't think y'all want to miss. Without any further ado, I bring to you my brother, Kemetian Adept. What up, bro?
Yes, sir. All is well. How you been, brother?
I'm good, man. Good.
Sure, that's good to know, brother. Good. You already know.
Yeah, you always coming with some scientific topics, brother.
Oh yeah, we got to, man, because everything we do, we trying to bridge the gap to get our people to see that we won. The thing is, we got to admit that our ancestors is the one that laid the foundation, so
Yep.
And
So
once you,
Akhenaten, the Islamic monotheist.
yeah, I know it's
right here.
controversial. Oh yeah, I know this right here gonna be controversial.
Right,
The
yeah.
title, but when I get through laying it down, it's my premise gonna be plain.
All right, so you got another show to do. Let's get started, brother.
Yes, sir. All is well. First and foremost, want to rise upon the seven within the unbroken circle of justice, mercy, love, and right, and give all praises to the great God, one whom I know is Allah, my Father God, Allah, and honors to his holy prophet, honors to our holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, El Hajj Sharif Abdul Ali, that is. Give honors to my Moorish kin once again, here, there, and everywhere, and therefore honors to all of you who are continuously honoring yourselves by being yourselves. Give honors to my Grand National Seal, Grand National Emblem, National Flag, Divine Constitution, and bylaws. And honors to all of you who are indeed a living manifestation and personification of everything that my holy prophet brought to make us a nation. So we want to give honors to all of y'all family. And without further ado and delay, we definitely going to lay this demonstration down, so to speak. And we hope that our family had a paper and pen on handy, so that they can give their particular portion as well. So all is well to you, family. This is a measure, like I said, to bridge the gaps. Many people have misunderstandings when it comes down to dealing with what it is that we represent. So we're going to show you. First and foremost, let me share my screen here. I want to let you know the position that I come from. With all due respects to our family in the MST of A. I'm not a member of the MST of A, but I give honors to Prophet Noble Drew Ali's Grand Major Temple, that he established, called the Moorish Science Temple. I'm actually a citizen of the Moorish American government, and I give honors to my Grand National Chairman, Dr. Akhenaten, Pert M. Heru Tutankhamun Bey, also known as Elihu Pleasant Bey. But we have a certain measure that we demonstrate when it comes to this teaching and what we bring forth. Our position, is that we come through the lineage of the last Adept. That's who we refer to our chairman as. And he was like an Akhenaten that was trying to bring our family together under government, and bring not only the Moors together, but all of our people. He's met with various different individuals of various different groups and have been on the manifest over 40-some years doing this work. And I have a, expression here. Some of you may be familiar with the terminology, but many don't know what this entails. And we're dealing with what we call the Ansoretic priesthood of Moors, the keeper of the Ansoretic mysteries of the Hashemites and the Moors of ancient Asia. This is the lineage from whence our wisdom comes. Now, most of the people that are familiar with the term Ansoretic priesthood of Moors, first thing come to their mind is Pastor Beverly, Randolph. But we go into the source, not to what he had established in his demonstration. We going back to the true source. Who are the true ones that were on the manifest in the stream of the wisdom that they brought? What is it? If you look right here, and I'm going to do this briefly, so this is only so that you know why I teach the way I do. Why I demonstrate the way I do. Some people are like, well, if you were more, how you demonstrating Kemet? Because we have Prophet Noble Drew Ali being an Egyptian Adept student. Furthermore, also, the Moorish Holy Quran that we call the Circle 7, which really consists of the 18 missing years of the life of Yehoshua, not Levi Dowling's version, but Prophet Noble Drew Ali's divine preparation. This text was out here before Levi even came in the manifest. They were on, they were in amongst the people of India, so to speak. You know, so this is a doctrine that was passed down. Noble Ali never say he was the author. He said he divinely prepared it. But the 18 missing years that is spoken of in the Circle 7 deal with primarily when Yehoshua was in Africa, or what we call Kemet at Kibalan. You know, when he was there in Kemet. You know, so there are other texts on that, but we'll get into that another time. There are teachings that people refer to as unto thee I grant. And they often say, well, that come from, you know, a particular, well, that came from actually an Asiatic, you know, Ramatha, actually Samathri is what they call him, Siri Samathri, Ramtra. And that particular individual gives in his preface or the beginning introduction the history through which the text came that he had, and he tell you that it came through Akhenaten, the same Akhenaten that we referred to. We'll show that to you later. So if, in fact, Yehoshua was taught in Kemet, according to the Piscean records, or what they call the Bible, they say he went into it there at the age of 12. So we have the years from 12 to 18. 12 to 33 there, par himself. So that's a Kemetic portion, then the Kemetic portion coming from Akhenaten, and then not to mention the Adept degrees, you know, that we have. Also, he was in Kemet. So that will make the Moorish Holy Quran to us. Don't care what nobody else think that have no knowledge. That would automatically make the Moorish Holy Quran, or Circle 7, a Kemetic book, a Kemetic stream of wisdom, directly and indirectly, so to speak. So this is why we come up here and show you what it is we here to teach. And you get this coming from us. Ancient Kemet, this first stream. We don't deny where our information come from, because every belief system, directly or indirectly, has drawn from Kemet in some type of way. I don't care if you're dealing with Hinduism, you know, Buddhism. I don't care if you're dealing with Christianity, Islam. So we just honest enough to admit, you know, that Kemet is the source. So the teachings we have are the mysteries of Osar, who most of our people know as Osiris. That's why we put that here. You know, the Sabaeid wisdom, the wisdom teaching. Sabaeid in Mir is actually what they call them, wisdom teaching, you know, as what we call it, of the ancient Moors. But it states, you know, also when we go into the essence, we're dealing with the solar Aten, and this is monarch initiatic temples. This is dealing with the source, because the source of monotheism comes through Aten. We already been drawing off of that. In fact, this is the true paradise of a teaching. If you were to use sound shifting in linguistics and change the T into a D, and it will be the Aden that most of the Muslims speak of as the Garden of Aden, Eden, as they call it. You know, we're using this right here just to give our people some insight. In other words, this is our paradise. Whether you believe that a Garden of Eden existed or not, there was a garden in Kemet, and we're going to get into that in a little bit too. So, you know, the Hashemite lineage that we deal with is not that of the Jordanian aspect, but we're talking about the lineage of Fatima and Ali coming through the line of Prophet Muhammad ibn Abdullah. And we're not even really dealing with the physical man. We're dealing with the Muhammadan of the light, Nuri, you know, the light, Muhammad ibn Abdullah. We're dealing with the spirit as opposed to just dealing with the man. In other words, the wisdom that came from him, because he came through the lineage according to history of Ishmael. And there was a Kemetic light that came through that lineage that came all the way down through what they like to call Tasawwuf, or the path of Sufism. Oh yeah, we're giving it all up, which also has a Kemetic link to those who have knowledge. If you don't know, then you don't know, but you know now. So this is dealing with a bloodline of sovereignty when it comes to the house of the prophet, of what they call the Alabate. And to us, the true Alabate is of the house of the prophet, as we call it, the house of Allah. So we have wisdom coming from all these streams. Now, You know, so the house of Allah is known as Bayat al-Mamur, the most frequent visited place, the house of the angels. You know, and to us, an angel is a thought made manifested in human flesh. So the house of the Most High is above the neck. Keep that in mind. So the Ansoretic brotherhood and priesthood, you know, are those who are custodians of the Gnostic cosmology, wine allegories, the hidden imam concept, reincarnation, cycle, sacred rites, and initiation. All of that type of stuff you're going to hear covered in the teaching of the Moorish Holy Quran. It's all there. You see, the Ansar of Allah. And we're not talking about those who were pushing the modern concept on the Dr. Malachi Ziyot. Nothing against the brother. You know, we talking about the real Ansar. So we have the Moors of Asia Major. And Asia Major actually is a term that's used that covers, you know, measures in Africa and, you know, the places that people commonly know as Asia. You know, this deals with a whole expression. Also, you know, it deals with that particular part of the world anyway. It's the Orient is where we deal. You know, maritime, divine harbor is what we have, and that's really being anchored in divine law, Asiatic identity, you know, nationhood in God, Moorish science, and esotericism. When we say Asiatic identity, you know, the reason we use this common thread for us as a people, because this is where we include all our people. We hear our brothers in the Nation of Islam, you know, call our brothers Asiatic black men. So the Asiatic concept, you know, that they have, Noble Drew Ali demonstrated that prior to the NOI, and it represents all of our people. You know, this is a collective term that we use. Don't get it confused with the modern day concept of what Asia is, because that's just like getting, you know, Africa confused, you know, today with what Africa was during the time when it was just a little province up there in Carthage before it was expanded, so to speak, you know, and it was the Moors who called it a Kibalon. And even that term, a Kibalon, has a Kemetic connection to it, an Arabic connection, and a Hebrew connection. The root in the word is Kib or Al-Keb, which often deals with land and water. But that's a whole nother measure. So last but not least, the whole source from whence we come forth with this wisdom is from a unified mystery stream. You know, and this comes through Tawheed and divine unity, sovereign nation of God and eternal gnosis. Gnosis just simply deals with knowledge that comes from within. And this is what our ancient Kemetic ancestors taught. So this is the perspective that we come from. So our information will always include one or some or all of these elements. And so when you see me present, that's the perspective I'm coming from. That's the lineage, you know, through which our wisdom comes as adepts. But that's a whole nother a whole nother measure, because it take one to teach one. In other words, it take an adept to teach an adept how to be an adept. And so we're giving our people some adept wisdom right now. So let me go into let me share this here, get the document in here for our family. And I'm glad our brothers say Islam have nothing to do with Kemet. We're going to show you something. Notice this, the topic now. Akhenaten's Proto-Islamic Monotheism. The Aten had Allah connection. In other words, we are saying that the elements of Islam that we have now existed prior to Islam. So let me go into this. And this is just one aspect. Let me share this screen one more time. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to share the whole of the screen. That way I ain't got to keep going back out and going in. Okay. There we go. Let me go into our actual presentation. We're going to try to fly through this demonstration. It make no sense because your knowledge is shallow, my brother. But if you disagree and you want to debate the topic, you know, then come on in the room. We ready. You see? All right. Let's see here. There we go. So this is our presentation, and this is featured by none other than the Egyptian Adept Research sa.neter. You know, and I want to give honors to all of my scribes that are part and partial of this, because we have done a lot of work, you know, coming through from this particular measure. And so we give credit to all of our people when we come here. Notice right here going to be controversial to those who looking with the carnal eye. Yes, sir. So we already starting busting shots. And I hope Sa watching right now. Because what we showing you, I have this.
I'm right here, brother. I'm right here.
Oh, yeah. Well, watch this, Sa. So we have neter equals Allah. Now, we know neter is nothing more than the word that's often translated as God. Or if you have the U there, or W, it's neteru, gods in plural, you know? And we know that these really represent divine attributes, you know, in action that are working through certain aspects of creation or certain neters, as ancient Kemet demonstrated this. So what do I mean? In other words, I'm saying God equals Allah, you know, but when they see neter, that's going to automatically become controversial. So what I did, I showed 3 Allah glyphs here. These measures, for those who don't know, and the reason why you don't know what you're looking at right now, is because this is hieratic. And when I say Proto Allah concept, I'm showing that the Allah glyph, and I showed this in our previous measure, it came from the hieratic, and not only hieratic, but we also proved that the same glyph was present also in Demotic, which came after hieratic. And the Arabs inherited this glyph, you know, basically adopted it. And it was a glyph that represents God here. And this is actually 2 of them, to be honest with you. This one is one that we are dealing with. And this is another one, you know, down here at the bottom. And look at where it comes from. When you look at the attestations here. Notice this is with the 18th dynasty. Meaning this particular sign, this is before Muhammad was even born. This was before Muhammad was even born. You see? 1,000 years pretty much before him. This particular symbol existed, but we're going to tell you what it means. It's one here, and look at what it says. New Kingdom, 18th dynasty, Amenhotep. The 4th, Akhenaten. This is Akhenaten, the same one that's being depicted right here up under the sun. So it's not a coincidence that this sign is coming out of this era. And it is also this sign that Muhammad in Islam, it ended up becoming a glyph for God. Well, what did it represent to the Kemetic people? That's the question that we want to ask. You see, because we know Muhammad in Islam, we can see the derivative here. And there are many different ways that they write the name Allah. So this will be what we call a proto-expression, a form of that. The first place we see it in a language before Islam. That's what I'm saying. And it was adopted by the Arabs. And I'm going to show you why, the possibility of why it was adopted. So this was the last portion of this first word. This is a second word here. I just put them together in a collage. And we see the same symbol out of the 18th dynasty. And we see Amenhotep, which is also Amenhotep, which they also now refer to as Akhenaten. Now, these are the reverse engineered signs that are brought forth. What these are referred to by most scholars, they call them ligatures, because they consist not of one alphabet like A, B, C, D, but this is actually, you know, a 3-letter expression, a 3-letter word. This is actually the one for neter here. This is neter right here, right? And this one is actually a word known as kenti. And they using a vessel to express this here. We don't look at these demonstrations in pictorial form because we know the pictorial is a reverse engineered aspect, but we do know what they assign them to. You see? So we're not reading pictures because you don't read pictures. This is the actual language of the ancient Kemites, the Metal Ray and Kemet, the language of the Egyptians, the Metal Ray and Kemet, just as what we call demotic is referred to as second inshat. That's the Kemetic way of saying it. And sa.neter, is pretty much a whole nother class of drawing. Don't confuse them with the other two that I named. So then they have the flags here. You see multiple flags, which expresses the neteru, but either or you dealing with nature. No different than saying God and having a big G and a little g is still the same expression. Same thing with nature and neteru. When you see the word the letters NTR here that make up this expression, this ligature that's featured down here, you ain't thinking about if there's a U or a W. That don't matter. The root is NTR, which represent God or gods in plural as one, the way the Kemetic people taught it. The Kemetian. So we have brought this on the manifest. This was one of the first findings that we had. I ain't got to go all the way over this again, but just touching the measure, this was one of the first things that I found. This was the demotic expression of the aloglyph. And this is actually coming from the language, that is featured Kemetically. This is demotic language, and you see the glyph in here twice. I expressed that. This is the Kemetic origins of the Arabic glyph for Allah. I'm showing that the Arabs draw most definitely, not only from hieratic, but also from demotic. Demotic actually was the language that came after hieratic. In other words, Metal Ray and Kemet gave birth to what they call second inshat, Kemetically. I'm using hieratic and demotic because that's what you understand. So don't get it twisted and think we don't know. We're giving you the original word and we're giving you the modern terminology they use so you know what they call it. Not giving credence to Greek words. But it says they originated from the demotic papyri of the house of Ptah. Because most of the teachings of Islam, if you go into the teachings of Ptah-hotep or Ptah, you will find the prayer gestures that they do in Salat. They can be found in a lot of the measures that you see, around the places where the teachings of Ptah were present. You see the concept of Ptah-hotep dealing with peace. That concept was there in Kemet before Islam ever came up with it. You see? So in this particular relic, we showed you many times, that the aloglyph, and we see it right here, was present here. Then we showed you, let me hide that real quick. The same ones that I had up here, they are present. That's your A, L, L, and your H right there. Same thing. This is demotic. I showed you hieratic. Just different ways of demonstrating it. So we showed our people, because most people had the right concept when they say, oh, Allah, a lot of them try to push it out. Allah's a moon god is what they say. But what they don't know, they had the right idea, but the wrong concept. Or the right concept, but wrong idea, vice versa, however you want to look at it. Whether people know it or not, in other cultures, this crescent, represented an expression, and this sun represented expression. Some people will tell you that it is Al and Ra, or Ara, but that's a whole nother measure. But we're going to look at the way that this figurine is holding this eye of Ra, or what we call the Wajet. The concept of the Wajet, the eye of Ra and Heru, however you want to speak of it, it always represented the omnipresence of God in man. In the Arabic, another word deriving from an ancient Kemetic word. The word Wajala means face of Allah, the face of God. And we have a statement where we say when man looks into the face of man, he looks into the face of Allah. You see? So we're not dealing with any spook being out in the space. We know that the great God is in man. In the Arabic, the term is just Allah. We're going to show you how this term is also Kemetically derived. So this is the transcendent essence of everything, or the inner reality of each entity. Wherever you turn, there is the face or reality of Allah. This is Yusuf Ali's translation in commentary. Surah 2, Ayat 115. There's another measure where it says, also, whosoever submit his whole self, to Allah, that basically this is the demonstration. The word for self or presence of God is the same thing. So the presence of God is within the self. We're talking about God, again, omnipresence of God and man. But this word waj is a derivative of the word wajet. Before it became waj, or known as waj in the Quran, it was known as wajet. This is why it says waj, again, is the transcendent essence of everything, or the inner reality of each entity. You see, so you no matter where you turn, the face of the Most High is on the manifest. This is inner self, inner being. Yusuf Ali also gives those measures as well. So when we speak of deity, this is what we're referring to. Now, I showed our people this as well. They often use this as an expression. I remember there was a Wolof brother with Renoka Rashidi, and he was in the museum. I want to say it. He was in the museum with the brother. You would think it was Kemet, but they have these particular relics there. And then he was showing him, he said the arm represents Allah. And people like, that's pseudo, that don't mean that. But what they didn't know is that the arm is expressed as Ah. Now this is a ligature. This ain't no letter as in an alphabet. This is a ligature. That's what this represents. Ah, right? So now, dealing with this particular droid, if you see, let me open that up. You see the same droid and you see the eye of Ra here. Anybody that knows anything about the language of ancient Kemet knows that the letter L is interchangeable with the letter R. And if we express it through our tongues right now, and that's something we're going to get into too, in reference to that. The letter R is interchangeable with the letter L. And a lot of people think the letter L only came on the manifest or existed, after the time that the Coptic came into the manifest. And this is where they claim it came from. But if you do your research, you'll find that first, the L sound is over 5,000 years old, because it existed in cuneiform expression as la, le, and lo. They didn't have the singular letter L at that time, but the sound was already present over 5,000 years ago. So it was present during the time that Kemet was thriving. Now, the actual time that the letter L came into an alphabetical system actually started with what we call Proto-sa.neter. And Proto-sa.neter giving birth, to Phoenician and Proto-Canaanite, they also retained that L, and that was around 1850 BC. You see? 1050, if we are dealing with the least expression, but it goes all the way back to the Proto-sa.neter. So a L was present during that time, which was also during the time when Kemet was thriving. This was actually roughly, around about 1,000 years before Akhenaten came forth with his monotheism. So the letter L existed long before Coptic people. Stop letting these people lie to you. And if you go back on what I just said and look that up, you'll find it. Now, the brother also said when he was with Renoka Rashidi, the African brother, the Wolof brother, he said it means to give, Allah from the arm, right? And you see a forearm here in the determinative, and it says emi, it means to give, right? So we know he was most likely making reference to this. So what we see in the expression, as we showed you up here, this is ah. This is not a letter. This is an expression, a sound, ah, and it is here in the arm. And then you have, again, ra in the palm, ah, ra. Now, if you roll that R, you can see how it's interchangeable with the L. If you try to roll the L, you'll see how it sounds like a R. Try that yourself. Try to roll the L, ra. You're going to hear ra. Try to roll the R, ra. You still hear that L coming in there. So, ah, ra. Yeah, I know they are. Oh, that's pseudo. Ah, you know, and we doing this right here just to mess with you. Don't worry, we're going to give you the sources in a minute. So anyway, like I say, it's interchangeable. R is interchangeable with L. We often seen Aya. And this root, Aya, which they say, oh, the moon god, and all this old foolery, right? You know, again, when they spell this stuff out with pictures and say that this is the language, we know it comes from hieratic. So we ain't really getting into that argument. We done had that one already. But it's just been reverse engineered in the pictures on the Champollion system, which is not the same of the ancient Egyptians, by the way. Ain't nobody came to try to disprove that yet. I'm still waiting on that. So this is Wolof, and you see Allah here. It says God, his, her, its, to him, or to her, to it, you know, to give it to him or her. So we can see why the brother say Allah means to give, and then he also, looking at the arm, you can see the arm is symbolic to give it. So this expression of the figurine or the nature, you know, this is one that is giving light. That's what Ra is, right? Ara, Allah, giving light. You see, that same light, again, is symbolic in the crown, the Al, you see, in the Ra, Al and Ra, in Ra, Aya, Ra, right here. So this again is the forearm given. We can see this right here. Go look that up yourself. So look at what it says. And this is from a book referred to as Aliism, if you want to know. It says, thus was it that the letter A became so sacredly associated with the idea of deity, who was himself called A, Al, or Allah. Note the spelling of it. This is just one of the many ways they spell this sound. That's a Hebrew version. It says the generic supreme name of God. It says, as worship among the eldest patriarch. The life of Allah or God was the life that the true Alias always desired to cultivate and lead. Hence, Aliism, or the life of God in the soul of man, was the most ancient mode of religion. See, that's what I was just talking about. The life of God in the soul of man. We call it in the Moorish Holy Quran, spirit clothed with soul made in the form of Allah. The higher self is spirit clothed with soul made in the form of Allah. Yet this concept predates Islam and Islamism. So again, there are the various different morphisms. Aya, Iya, Ya, La, Allah, 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 and Allah. I gave this to y'all before, but I'm using the hammer repetition. So when I get into the grand aspect of what it is, you already know why I'm saying what I'm saying. This was a drawing dealing with the ancient Egyptian origins of making dua to Allah. We proved that this also was a practice that comes out of ancient Kemet when they placed their palms up. The image above is from the plates 1 and 2 of the Ani Chef papyrs of Ani. And Ani was a scribe who died in ancient Kemet or Egypt approximately 3,300 years ago. His Chef of papyri was found in his tomb. Now we are looking at this not as letters. All of these represent people, places, and things. And there's a difference between that. For example, this is not a single alphabet. We know it ain't a part of Champollion's list. This is known as Seba, or sometime Amdua, depending on the context by which it is used. Here it's expressing the Amdua, a dua, as we call it. And we see the priest has his hands lifted in adoration. There are those who would tell you, this represents a stance of Calvinists. That's misleading and disingenuous. This actually is a measure of adoration. Noble Drew Ali actually demonstrated this. If you look up his pictures more than one time, he was putting Kemet in our people's face all the time. And then if you look, this scroll, which is the Majet, it really don't mean nothing. It's just there, but then we have this. Remember, we talked about giving, to give, you see? And then we see Ah, as we showed you earlier already, in Ra and La. So you can interchange it between one or the two. Ara, 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 Dua, Ara, Allah, Ara, Dua. In other words, this priest is giving dua, or praises, to Ara. He's giving praises. That's why you see the hand being extended there. And if you notice, the praises come through the expression of the mouth. Notice we're not looking at these demonstrations as letters. We're giving you the metaphysical interpretation. And look at what we have here. The same express drawing of the figurine squatting, behind this is special mention. So as the priest is giving praises, or making dua, right, to Allah, giving praises to Allah, right? It's the same entity here. You see the long beard, you see the headdress. This was the natural drawing, of an anthropomorphic expression of how Kemet would represent the deity. It's the same expression of the deity that stands in front of even the flag. When you see sa.neter, if you know Kemet, you know what I'm talking about. I ain't got to speak to you like baby. So dua, Allah, praises be to Allah. We prove again that this represents a state of being. Up here, this is Allah, and this deals with variations of the field of peace, or the plains of peace. In the religion of ancient Egyptians, the Allah field of peace was a field of peacefulness reserved for the souls of the redeemed. It was located in one of the 4 sections of Amenti in the underworld. Amenti as the underworld, as we talk to our people, don't mean nothing in hell or under the world, as you might literally think. Amenti represent that which cannot be seen with the physical eye, what some of us would call the spirit realm. You see? So Amenti represents everything that is underlying creation or behind creation. You see, there's Amenti when you look at the body, the essence of who you truly are. When you talk about that card in that bar, you can't see the card in the bar with physical eye. That's Amenti. You see, when we talk about Ra and we deal with divine light, you don't see divine light with the eye. You can see physical sunlight. You see, even the concept, of Osar ruling on the throne in Kemet for eternity. We know Kemet has been destroyed as a civilization, so there's no longer a physical throne, but the post still remains, if you understand that we don't die, even though we physically leave this earth. You see? And most of us, even if you deal with African teachings in general, outside of the Kemetic teaching, all of us believe that our ancestors are able to teach us, or we can contact or deal with them from the plane of things made manifest if we can tap into the plane of what some people call the soul plane. Some people use terms such as in the Grand Quran, the exalted assembly, the exalted chiefs on high, or some people say ascended masters, or, many titles they give. But all of this is dealing with Amenti, that which cannot be seen with the physical eye, but is most definitely present. So anyway, it says, similar to the Elysium field of Greek mythology, meaning they tried to steal the concept. It says, here the god Horus, which we know as Heru, the well waiting the time for his return to earth when he would reestablish the ring of the gods and restore the world to its original glory. So in other words, the doctrine of eschatology that was taught or is taught in both Christianity and Islam, saying that Jesus is supposed to come back, a second coming, this was taught in ancient Kemet as it relates to Heru before it was taught in this modern time. So Heru is said to be in this field of peace known as Allah. So we find that this peace or this field of peace was a place. It was a destination. It was a state of being. So this is what Allah represents in ancient Kemet. It is a state of mental paradise. See, this is what I was talking about. This is our Garden of Eden that existed in Kemet before it was mentioned in Arabic or Hebrew. I'm showing you the origin to show you where these things come from and how they became a derivative of what a lot of people like to call mythos. Nothing negative about mythos. It's our perception of what we understand mythos to be. So Alu is another way that they express this. Variations or fields of Alu. The field of Aru. See how they changed the L and the R? See how they changed the two? According to the ancient Egyptian letter known as Destruction of Mankind, which was first discovered in the tomb of Seti I. The god Ra, tired of ruling over disobedient people of the earth, retired to the sky where he created for himself a place to dwell and rule over. There he created a field of rest, Allah, the great field for growing crops. The field of Alu, the book of the dead, says that upon the death of the human body, this is the location of the newly formed soul, and that it is here they will spend their time harvesting the divine crops. The field is surrounded by a wall of iron, which has many doors. It is traversed by a river, right? The valley grows to a height of 7 cubits. Alu has also been compared to the Elysian field of Greek mythology. Source, Broderick's Concise Dictionary of Egyptian Archaeology. You see, Allah is a state of being. So when one is giving praises to Allah, giving dua to Allah, this all has to do with going within the self. At least that's the way we teach it. Because in my circle, we teach there are no gods outside of the self. You know, even Neteru in ancient Kemet consists of different parts of the body, according to certain aspects of understanding who the Neteru are. Your eyes, your ears, all that right there. Arm, leg, arm, head, as we call it. So we have a question in our question. What is the symbol of Islam? The olive tree. You know, and there was a mention of that olive tree mentioned here. That's why we put it there. But, you know, I spoke on this Ra, you know, is the root of the Arabic word Nara. And what we're saying is that not the word Nara as being Ra, but Nara means light. So in other words, we're saying light itself, Nara or Nur, is the root. And we say Ru'Allah. This is what the Quran call it, Ru'Allah. That's the spirit of Allah. He breathed it into man. Here, Kemetically, Ra'alu. And you just seen the word. I just showed you Allah and Alu, so you know where that come from. So Surah 24 in the Grand Quran say Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. The parable of his light is as if there were a niche, and within it a lamp, and the lamp enclosed in a glass, and the glass as it were a brilliant star lit from a blessed tree, an olive, neither of the east nor of the west. The olive tree being symbolic to the wisdom and the light and the spirit of the truth. You can't place a limitation on it and say that the light of the supreme being is limited, because the sun shines in every direction, though being in one location. So what about divine sun or the divine light that we're going to get into in a minute when we deal with Aten? It says, neither the east nor the west, whose oil is well nigh luminous, though fire barely touch it, scarcely touch it, light upon light, light and more light. Allah doeth guide whom he will to his light, and Allah doeth set forth parables for men, and Allah doeth knoweth all things. 24:36. Lit is such a light in houses which Allah has permitted to be raised to honor, for a celebration in them of his name, and in them he is glorified in the mornings and in the evenings again and again. What is this talking about? This is a parable. You are the house of Allah. Remember, I talked about the house of Allah. What is the highest thing exalted in a house? An attic. So that's the concept of Asia being the earthbound body, attic being the mind. We're giving you esoteric measures as well as literal history in parallel. You know, so when it says celebration in them, and this means he's glorified mornings and evenings, that's a cyclic process. When divine light is emanating from your being, you know, when you're raising up, when you go throughout the day, when you lay down and recite them laws of Ma'at and say, I have not done this. I have not. When you raise up again, you say, I shall not. You don't point your fingers at nobody like the 10 Commandments and say, thou shalt not. The responsibility is on you. See, that's what Ma'at teaches, truth and right. When you truthful and you righteous, then you will speak the truth even when it is against yourself. So we have also a mentioning of the exalted Ray. And this measure actually comes from where Muhammad himself spoke, you know, in reference to Ray. Highly exalted is Ray above all that in which they associate with him. And a lot of people say, oh, that was a bogus hadith, where it was transmitted, you know, by one that was expected to be sound. You know, so we'll let you argue about all that. He said exalted is Ray above that in which they associate with it. And I don't know nothing about nobody else, but Ray is Kemetic. Ray is also Ra. In fact, the word Ruh, that's known as spirit in Arabic, this is the root. Ra and Ra, Araha and Ruh. That's it. So we can see these Kemetic indirect derivatives that came into Islam, you know, for those who have eyes to see and ears to hear and a heart to sympathize and empathize with the truth. You get it. So I gave a symbolic expression, you know, of what it represents to break down the parable we read above. And it was talking about the light of Allah being the heavens and earth. That's Ra and Ray, spirit clothed with soul, made in the form of Allah, as I said earlier. Then we have the lamp equals Ba, which is the spirit, right? We have Nich, which is Ka, which is the soul. And I'm pointing to all of these expressions in this symbolic measure. The glass is Sahu, which we call flesh divine. I'm only using this as symbolic, people, so don't go to thinking literally. He say, Alif Lam Lam Lam. Is it? No, this is a symbolic measure that I'm using to teach you right now. So get your mind out the gutter. So this is the arm, leg, arm, head, or the form of the star. And that's why I mentioned up here, it says again, Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. The heavens represent the mind. The earth is the body. So Allah is the light of the mind and the body. The parable of his light is as if there were a niche and within it a lamp, and the lamp enclosed in the glass, and the glass was a brilliant star. I just gave that parable to you and gave you the example of what was being said. That's all. But we can see the Kemetic connection there. See, this is really overkill. You know, but we're going to go on anyway. You've seen this before as well. All of these things I'm putting together so you can see, you know, what's being stated here. This is our order, which is the name of a God. Interchangeable R with L, it becomes A'ul. Then we have Ah, as we already spoke on that, and we see that arm again, right? All plus Ah equals Allah, right? I'm showing you again the same expression of the nature, having that Ah, Ra, in the arm, Allah, same headdress, Al in Ah, right? Standing upon the square. And when we go into this special drawing, there's a measure dealing with Sufism. Like I told you, Sufism is a derivative of Kemetic teachings. This is all Adept teaching. The Sufi Adepts teach that the Aullah and their status, sometimes the physical external body, Zahir, this is what we call exoteric knowledge. Anything dealing with that which is external. So this says their physical body of Alullah, and this represents the collective of saints, is what the Sufis are referring to when they say Alullah. This is a collective of saints. So their physical external body of the Alullah is so weak that even if a mosquito were to bite them, they would be distressed and disturbed. However, their internal condition, Batin, and that's the esoteric, that's the inner being, the spirit self, is such that it contains the 7 heavens within itself. Therefore, one cannot truly estimate the power and the vastness of the internal condition. Therefore, one cannot truly estimate the power and the vastness of the internal condition, Batin, of the Alullah, the saints, the spirits, the angels, masterminds, ascendant, however you want to look at it. In terms of the level of their physical beings, they are with the rest of creation. Yeah, far as we can see it, this body is right here on earth. But when you have a higher calling and you have a spiritual essence, but in the terms of the level of their souls, they are constantly in the presence of Allah. So in other words, I'm in the world, but not of the world. But carnal people gonna see you as just, look at that Negro right there. You know, look at that so and such, right? They don't see the spirit in you. But we taught again in more science that when you look into the face of man, you look into the face of Allah. Allah speaks to man through man. So we look at each and every one of our brothers and sisters, you know, as a spirit and a part of Allah. We don't look at the flesh and judge our people by that. That's what it's saying. So why then would their souls not be able to encompass the 7 heavens? We call this looking with the eyes of the soul, the 7 Elohim. The average intellect is not capable of truly recognizing the status, position, states, and conditions of those that are in the proximity of Allah. That means some of the people that can't see what's being said right now, you know, of average intellect, they don't comprehend nothing I'm saying. It's going right over their head. But the ones who know what I'm speaking about and have a good spiritual grounding, they understand what it means to be in the proximity of God, because God is within you. In fact, in Sufism, it said that Allah said he sent himself unto himself, you know, basically that itself will bear witness to him. There's a saying in Sufism that is speaking in that way. So I showed our people, you know, how in, you know, the alphabet charts they tried to create through your boy Champollion them. You know, this is actually, you know, one from 1891. This was not his per se, you know, but you'll see where they have the R and the L as being interchangeable here in what they call in the symbol. We know these symbols, again, are reverse engineered expressions. Look up reverse engineer and you'll get it. We know that the true alphabet is hieratic. It's not pictures. We show that to you because we know that's what you're familiar with. So here, Allah, I don't have to read that no more because we just read it to you earlier. But I'm showing you when you deal with the concept of linguistics and you shift through sound, the letter L. Aru here would be Alu. We seen Alu because I showed it to you. I read it in the definition. Alu again here. This is A-A-R-U, A-A-L-U. See? Look at what it says. The name of a celestial city. That's the field of reeds that Ra went into. Allah, same thing. A-A-L-L. And that's A-A-R-U. Sound shifting. Right? A-A-R-R. All. And again, all plus Ah. We know Ah, you know what is expressed in that. It represents, again, deity. Then it says the God of the field of reeds, Allah. So I'm showing you through the sound shift on this, but now we're getting into the presentation. How do we prove this? Because we spoke a few minutes ago, and this is what we want to show you. Remember I was talking about, you know, these particular pictures here, right? And how they were reverse engineered and they represent ligatures. These are 3-letter words. One is Kenti, Kent, and the other is Neteru. Both of these are used as proto-aloglyphs. In other words, they existed, you know, prior to Muhammad in Arabic even speaking, of these concepts. Now watch this. I'm going to go here first. Let's see. Let's see here. So for those who don't know, see the root word here? And that is not HNT, that's Kent. You can tell by the little loop at the bottom, this is a hard K. That's Kent, right? Look at the symbol. See how they have the same reverse engineered expression? This goes all the way back to Dynasty 3. See, I just went to the Akhenaten. I ain't even go this far back, even though this symbol here is featured in the one from the Akhenaten dynasty as well. These are all the symbols, different variations of them. This is where they come from. You see, same thing, Dynasty 18. There they go right there again. And there's many more that I could have put in there, you know, to go all, actually, the more they evolve, the more they look like they're loglyph. I didn't choose this because this was more recent, you know, but it's the same glyph that's there. I just chose the one that was specifically from Dynasty 18, and this is Kent. We're going to show you what this word Kent means, because this is the key aspect of identifying the association with this with God. Now watch this. I want to show you the other symbol. We done established Allah being right there in Kemet. We ain't through with that yet neither. We actually have the definitions in here of all the words, and we're going to show you, you know, in a minute. So let me go here. We'll go back here because we want you to follow me. Here the flag pole. Some people like to use the term axe, but it was represented in the form axe and flag based upon the dynasty you might get it from, the term neter or neteru. See? But I only pulled out the 18th dynasty to show that these symbols existed in that time. But we want to show you that they had something to do with God prior to Muhammad. And this going to remove all doubt when I say that this became the proto or loglyph, this likeness, these symbols here. So let's go to this one. Let me see. Yeah. I may have to go through the word search here. Yeah, let's do it this way. It ain't yielding it for me at this time, huh? Let me see here. Just had that thing up there too. I'll do it this way. And always Google something and pull it up. I didn't want to go there. Where is it? I just had that joke in here. Let's see if they pull it up here. Not that one. Come on. In the world. It ain't that one. They pull up everything but what you're looking for. Where is it?
Like the video. Thumb up the video.
Okay, where you at? Okay, I may be able to pull it from here. Where you at, Unicode? I don't want to spend too much time up here. That's it. I'm looking for the specific number that I had here. Just had it. That's the thing I didn't memorize that. Let me see. Not there. They got everyone up here but that. Let's see. I don't really want to go through all the whole dang on thing looking for this. I should be able to find it right. Because based on different areas, they have different numbers in here. Come on. Where you at? I can't believe that one didn't just come up because that's one of the most popular ones. Let's see. I might be able to go back here and do this again. Oh my goodness. Let's see. Still ain't pulling it up. Come on. Let me reset it. Yeah, they gave me something else other than what I was looking for. I wasn't looking for that. Why in the world is not letting me? Let me see. See if it do it this way. They give me all other flags under here. Where in the world is that Unicode at? Okay, is it this one? Okay, we're gonna do it this way. That ain't gonna work. Let's see. Let's do it this way right here. Just pull it up on this side right here. This search engine is always better. Okay, there you go right there. It's actually R8. They added the extra stuff in there. That's why I couldn't see it. Here we go. RA. All right, we got you, family. It's R8. The problem is they added something extra in there. That's why I couldn't see it a few minutes ago. They added A in there, R8A. So it should come up now. There you go. That's what I was trying to. Sheesh. Goodness gracious. So anyway, so we see the different signs for nature right here. Blow that up for you. We already know that means God. This is all the way back to the 3rd dynasty as well, just like the other word. So when we come down here, keep going. Now we see the change. See the Neteru, Dynasty 6, 3 flags, right? Neteru here. And there you go. You go to seeing the changes. That's the actual expression of the glyph that I have that's depicted up here. In this area. See the R8A? And that's it. So both of these titles have reference to God. That's what I'm getting at. Here, the hieroglyphic example of divine titles, Kemetian. This is my research. Kemetian meant foremost of the gods. There you go already, right there. Now this is going right back to the same symbol, sa, and it being in reference, these two words, Kemetian, has to do with the foremost of the gods. Kenti means foremost or first, and of the gods has to do with Neteru. So that would be these two symbols in the hieratic language. This title, formed by writing Kenti as above, this is my finding, followed by the word for gods, Neteru, designates a deity as supreme among all the gods. It wasn't the name of a specific god, but a prestigious epithet applied in different contexts to elevate a god's rank. All right now, Kemetian. This was pretty much the Kalima Shahada of the ancient Kemites. You know how they say there's no God but Allah. Kemetian means foremost of the God. That means he's above all gods. So they had common examples dealing with the divine epithets with Kent. For example, it used to be used in various different ways like this. Egyptian transliteration meaning associated deity. We see Henti Amentiu, which means foremost of the Westerners. You know, this was the title of Asa. Henti Neteru. You see, foremost of the gods, right? And they actually used it for Amun, Ta, Ra, depending on who the deity was that was ruling at the time. And there's going to become a different use for this word on the Akhenaten. Then this is Kentep-il. And this is basically foremost of the eastern hill of the horizon, Ra. This is Henti sa.neter. Henti sa.neter, which is foremost in the divine booth, priests or sacred animals, right? These are some of the ways that they use this Kenti title, this epithet. Another use was Kenti sa.neter, which means foremost of the god. You see? Another fascinating epithet is Kenti sa.neter, written as Kenti sa.neter, which means first hall of the god, or foremost of the god. Again, right? These are my findings. In the comparative aspect of this, I found, you know, as I went deep, I said, well, let me see the similarities between Aten and Ahat, because they sound close in sound shifting. Allah and Kemetian. And so what we come up with is that Aten, you know, coming out of the ancient Egyptian 18th dynasty, Akhenaten, the solar disk was used as a symbol, not the god. The radiance, which represented the spirit of the god, radiates from the disk, which is symbolic to the rays that come forth with the hands at the end of it. So the theological function, let's deal with the parallel aspects of Ahat, which is an attribute of Allah in Arabic. We had conversation with brothers about this word. It means one of. No, I showed them that it means one God. So this was elevated by Akhenaten as the sole source of life and creation, the universal sustainer. Parallels of this, Ahad and Aten. Singularity, universality anticipates Allah as the Lord of the worlds. So we see Ahad is most definitely parallel to Aten. So Aten would be the proto expression of the Ahad concept that later came in Arabic. Okay, here's another measure. Ahad in Arabic, Quran, Islam, represents Allah as one and unique. And it declares Allah's indivisibility and oneness. Kul huwallahu ahad. You see, Ahad. This parallels Aten in rejection of the multiplicity and resonates with Kemetian as supreme. So Kemetian is how Akhenaten end up replacing, this concept with being Amun, Osar, Ra, and it became solely used for Aten, as known as supreme. So Kemetian took on this particular measure during the time of Akhenaten. So Akhenaten did the same thing pretty much that Muhammad did later. Akhenaten became hated for what he did, as Muhammad was hated for what he did. So Akhenaten was the Muhammad of his time, and Muhammad was the Akhenaten of his time. How do we say this? Akhenaten was, they went at him by changing the concept of the worship. You see? He destroyed the order of how they had things going and came with the concept of the oneness before Muhammad was even born. Some people say, well, Akhenaten demonstrated henotheism. Henotheism is no different than what's demonstrated in Islam when they talk about Allah and his attributes. But that's a whole nother measure. So Allah, Arabic, Islam, Allah al-Ilah, the absolute transcendent God of Islam, beyond form, indivisible, Lord of all the worlds, right? Then it says the culmination of the theological principle Akhenaten began with Aten, right? Last but not least, Kemetian again, ancient Egyptian general. The uses in the epithets foremost of the gods. The title applied to a deity as supreme above all others within a polytheistic framework. So this is where Aten was lifted, above all. The parallel to this, the conceptual precursor to Aten's singularity and Allah's supreme sovereignty. Same thing. Furthermore, the conclusions I begin to come to was in my thesis, so to speak, that the 18th dynasty enacted monotheism as a proto form of the concept of Allah. The religious reforms of Pharaoh Akhenaten during Egypt's 18th dynasty represent one of the earliest recorded attempts to elevate a single divine principle above the traditional polytheistic framework. By exalting Aten, the soul of this, Akhenaten displaced the multitude of deities with a universal singular source of life. This transformation may be understood in light of the ancient Egyptian title, Kemetian, foremost of the gods. So again, I showed you that those hieratic words that were the proto-Allah glyphs, they mean foremost of the gods. So they referred to a God principle during the time of Akhenaten. So this predates the Allah of Islam, while yet at the same time giving birth to it. A designation that positioned a deity as supreme above all others, foreshadowing the later Abrahamic conception of divine oneness. Linguistically, a profound continuity emerges between the Egyptian Aten and the Arabic Ahat, meaning one. Both terms emphasize the singularity and indivisibility of the divine, with Aten functioning as the sole source of existence in Akhenaten's theology, and Ahat enshrined in the Quranic declaration of monotheism, Qul huwallahu ahad. This phonetic and conceptual similarity underscores a deeper Afro-Asiatic linguistic and theological stream that links ancient Egyptian religious thought with Semitic expressions of divine unity. Thus, Akhenaten's theological revolution should not be dismissed as an isolated hearsay, but rather seen as a precursor to later monotheistic traditions. His elevation of Aten as the supreme principle reflects the same spiritual impulse later codified in the Islamic understanding of Allah as Al-Ahad, the One. Both traditions reject divine multiplicity and emphasize the ultimate sovereignty of a single transcendent source. In this sense, Akhenaten's monotheism anticipates the Abrahamic emphasis on unity, positioning the 18th dynasty as a crucial pivot in humanity's evolving conception of divinity. By uniting Kemetian, the foremost of the gods, Aten, and Ahad, we uncover the continuous theological thread the recognition of the one as supreme above all gods, the absolute reality behind creation, and the eternal truth later enshrined in Islam's declaration of Tawheed. So Kemetian was the Kemetic version of what now is referred to as the worship of one God, the foremost of the gods, the supreme above all gods. So Tawheed was foreshadowed in the concept of Kemetian, the Islamic version. We see here in Allah, and we have various different, this is like a sunflower, and you see various different attributes being expressed here. If you look here, you know, transparently, you can see the Akhenaten of Aten, and you can see them making dua. You can see the key of life being handed down from the disk of the sun and all of that. But what is stated here, upon investigation, my investigation, Akhenaten's 18th dynasty monotheism in its resonance with the concept of Allah. This deals with the reign of Pharaoh Akhenaten in Egypt's 18th dynasty, 1353 to 1336 BCE. This marks one of history's earliest and most radical experiments in monotheism, rejecting the polytheistic pantheon of Amun, Osiris, Ptah, and others. Akhenaten elevated the Aten, the solar disk, remember it was a symbol, not the deity itself, to the status of sole divine principle. One God. While often regarded as an anomaly or hearsay, his reform may instead be understood as proto-form of the later Abrahamic monotheisms. This thesis explores the parallels between Akhenaten's Aten and the Egyptian title Kemetian, foremost of the gods, and the Quranic conception of Allah as Ahad, one, revealing a deep linguistic and theological continuum. Historical context. So what we find after all of these conclusions, based upon the information in the research, Akhenaten and the Atenist revolution. Akhenaten's reform dismantled centuries of religious tradition centered at Thebes. He closed temples, redirected wealth to his new capital, Akhenaten, the modern Amarna. It states, and exalted Aten as the source of all life. Hymns from his reign portray Aten not merely as a solar body, but as a universal sustainer of creation whose rays nourish all beings without distinction. Y'all heard it in the Bible or the Piscean record when they say the sun of God shines upon the righteous and the wicked. But this was demonstrated by Akhenaten long before they said that in the Bible. You know, even in the Quran, it refers to the sun in the semblance of being like that of Allah. We see Allah as the light of the heavens and the earth. We covered that earlier. But then we also see, you know, it says Allah is not the sun, but it is his noblest image. So context is placed that way in the Moorish Holy Quran. It states, in adopting this theology, Akhenaten shifted divine identity from anthropomorphic gods to an abstract singular principle, one God. While scholars debate whether Atenism was true monotheism or Heruphant, we covered that earlier, supreme devotion to one God without denying others, rhetoric or exclusivity, there is no God beside him, aligns closely with the later monotheistic traditions. We almost done, family. The title, Kemetian, foremost of the gods. The epithet, Kemetian, was applied in Egyptian religious texts to deities elevated as supreme among their peers. It functioned as a theological tool to establish hierarchy in a polytheistic context. By applying a similar principle to Aten, Akhenaten universalized the title. The Aten was not simply foremost, but singular beyond comparison. Akhenaten universalized the title. The Aten was not simply foremost, but singular beyond comparison. The linguistic framework foreshadows the Quranic instance that Allah is Allah, the Most High. That's one of the attributes of Allah, another one. And Ahad, the one. The Egyptian conceptualization of a deity surpasses all others, set the stage for the radical idea of abolishing divine multiplicity altogether. So before Muhammad destroyed the 360 idols in the Kaaba, and established the worship of one Allah, this was demonstrated under the concept of Kemetian, the foremost of the gods, as it had been brought forth and reintroduced or repackaged by Akhenaten. The linguistic resonances of Aten again in the hat, the comparison between Aten and the Arabic ahad reveals striking similarities. Phonetic overlap. Both words share vowel consonant structure with the central T, N, and D. Remember, I was telling you about the sound shift. This is the phenome shift that deals with that which is common of Afro-Asiatic languages. In Egyptian, Aten carried the Semitic feel of radiance and unity. In Arabic, ahad carries the theological feel of indivisible oneness. Same thing. Semantic parallels. Aten was conceived as a universal source, the unifying power behind visible creation. Ahad in the Quran emphasizes Allah's absolute indivisibility and singularity. Say He is Allah, the one, Kuhu Allah Ahad, right? The eternality of oneness. Both terms negate multiplicity. Aten erased rival deities. Ahad negates associating partners, shirk, with Allah. So you see, this etymology is real. This resonance suggests that Atenism may represent an early crystallization of the same Afro-Asiatic religious impulse later codified in Abrahamic scripture. You got it from Kemet, Quranically or biblically. Theological parallels, Aten and Allah. Universality, Akhenaten's hymns emphasize that the Aten gives breath to Egyptians and foreigners alike. So under Aten, not only were the Egyptians under one God, but they also included, or Akhenaten also included foreigners as well. Remember, I told you the light shines upon the righteous and the so-called wicked, right? Anticipating the Quranic idea of Allah as Rabbil Alamin, Lord of the worlds. So just as Akhenaten brought forth the principle under Kemetian, the foremost of the god, Egyptian worshiping along with foreigners alike, this is parallel to the Allah Rabbil Alamin, Lord of all the worlds. Immateriality, unlike anthropomorphic Egyptian gods, Aten was abstract, represented only as a radiant disk. Similarly, Allah transcends form and imagery. Exclusivity. Atenist texts declare one sole God, besides whom there is none. Echo in the Quranic Shahada, there is no God but Allah. So again, like I said, Aten did what Muhammad did during his time, and Muhammad did what Aten, did during his time. Akhenaten is who I'm referring to. And this is Akhenaten shifted, the Egyptian religion from polytheism towards universal source. Kemetian reflects the Egyptian hierarchical supremacy ideal, which Akhenaten radicalized into absolute supremacy. Ahad in Arabic codifies invisible oneness in Arabic, conceptually similar to Akhenaten's declaration about Aten. Allah as Al-Ahad, the one, represents the full theological maturity of this impulse, a universal transcendent, indivisible God. Conclusion: Akhenaten's Atenism was not a historical dead end, but a pivotal stage, in humanity's search for divine unity. By elevating Aten through the framework of Kemetian, rejecting the multiplicity, Akhenaten anticipated theological trajectory. I'm going too fast, my mind moving faster than my mouth, so to speak. That culminated in the Abrahamic instance on one God. The linguistic conceptual parallels between Aten and Ahad suggest that the Egyptian experiment with divine oneness resonates across millennia, finding its mature expression in the Quranic revelation of Allah as Al-Ahad. In this sense, Akhenaten may be seen not as a heretic, but as a precursor, a pharaoh whose theological vision foreshadowed Islam's central proclamation of divine unity. So we can even see you know, because this is pretty much the end right now. The connection between Akhenaten and Kenti, you know, that title foremost of gods, we can even see it in his name, the Kent, in the root, Henti, deity above all others. His name functioned like verbal proclamation of Aten's supremacy, echoing the role that Kenti played in divine epithets of other earlier gods. You know, just as Osiris or Osar, you know, was Kenti Amentiu of the West, Aten through Akhenaten became Kenti Neteru in the practice of foremost of the gods. So again, we know that Akhenaten originally was Amenoptet the fourth. You know, his name is meant effective for Aten, a living spirit of Aten. You know, his name emphasized devotion to Aten, the solar disk, rather than the older Theban god Amun. You know, and so we end it right there, and then we show you, I ain't going into this, but this is the concept of Allah as the highest God in pre-Islamic Arabia. I showed y'all this before. This is an academic paper that was submitted on a thesis to the facility of the Faculty of Graduate Studies. This was in partial fulfillment for requirement and degree of Master of Arts. And this is actually dealing with Allah in pre-Islamic Arabia, where Allah was recognized, you know, as a supreme God, even among the pagans. You see, this was before Muhammad was on the mountain. This is Islamic poetry. You know, in terms of religious life, the Arabs held for the most part pagan beliefs, but not to the extent that many assume, since they also believed in a supreme God. Allah became their Kenti Neteru, named Allah, the creator and sustainer of the universe. He became their foremost God. He was always the foremost God, but he was above the idols that they were praying to. You see, if you ask them who has created the heavens and the earth, subjected the sun and the moon, they will surely reply Allah. Surah 29, ayah 61 and 63. How then can they turn away from them? If you ask them who is it that sends water from the sky, thus resurrects the earth in his depth, they will certainly reply, God. Say praise then be to God, but most of them are senseless. You know, so it says, when they felt the urge to make vile invocation, they seldom referred to their various gods or goddesses. Instead, they called more upon Allah as their witness. This is before Muhammad now. This is Arabic poetry they reference here. All this document based on this thesis is Arabic poetry before Muhammad came forth. For example, Imru al-Qays, about 500 to 540 AD, has a woman swear on several occasions. And she said, basically, his lover said, I swear by Allah that you have no way of attaining what you desire, even if I see allurement appear from you. So they were swearing by Allah as the supreme God, even though they had them 300 idols up there in that Kaaba. You see? So again, that's the concept of Allah as the highest God in pre-Islamic Arabia. This is, again, Proto-Islamic, because this is poetry. So anyway, in the teaching of the Quran, they speak of the Sabians, Sabi'un Hunafa. And the Sabians represented the Cushites. The Sabians represented the people that Allah said will be blessed along with the Muslims. So the Sabians are ancient ancestors of the Moors, our people, basically. So we take the path of Sabianism as it relates to the teaching, and not Arabism when it comes to the way we teach. Here's one of the teachings that Sabianism deal with. You hear people talk about Malata Ibrahim and Sa. You know, we're going to extend not on the time per se, you know, but we're going to sit, you know, a little bit beyond what we said, because I want to make sure they get the understanding of this. But I'm almost done with my presentation. I just want to make sure I can communicate with those who would like to come in, you know, and I can stand that hit. But it says here in Quran, if you ever heard somebody say we take on the baptism of Allah in the Quran, you know, and they use sometime color, the color of Allah, you know, and so forth and so on. The word Sibagatala is what's expressed in the Quran. You know, his definition, it means to dye, to color, to baptize, to dip, immerse, hue, assume the attribute, mold, mature code of law and religion. Sibigatun, see the root? Atun is even present in Sibigatun. So we're talking about assuming the attributes. If you know anything about esotericism, there's a thing about assuming the God form. How do you assume the God form? By assuming the attributes of the Most High, by assuming the law, taking on that spirit, clothed with a soul made in the form of a law. So you become one with the Creator through deific will. This is to immerse oneself in divine wisdom and the law. So this is the way of life that we follow. Mulatu Ibrahim, the religion of Abraham, all is well. You know, Deen Atu Allah, you know, the religion, and I mean Deen Atu Islam, you know, which they call the religion of Islam, you know, but the Deen of Allah is Sibagatu. You know, it is embodying his characteristics and attributes. So it says in the Holy Quran, Surah 2, Ayat 131, the attributes of God and his code of law is called God's Sibaga. This word has been adopted there as a hint to Christians that the baptism of water does not affect any change in a person. It is takluk bi akhlaq Allah. That is the adoption of God's attributes and broad principle of faith bring about the real change in the mind and character. So that's what we mean when we say baptism. We talk about being baptized in the attributes of Allah, immersed in the code of law instead of being slam dunked in a pool of water. You see? You know, they even use the term for sebagatun as what they call, you know, condiment, sabagun, sauce, relish. What good is a salt if it's lost its savior, is what they say biblically. You know, but if you got sauce, now you know what it means to have divine sauce. You feel me? That means you got God power within you. The attributes, you're dripping with it. So I won't read this whole message. This is the one I was referred to, Sri Ramathiro, that actually wrote the book Unto Thee I Grant, or brought these things forth. And he was speaking on the text, which is also in our Moorish Holy Quran, these chapters. It was natural for those in Tibet to attribute the manuscript to one of their great writers, such as Confucius, or Lokun, meaning that being that he was Asian, he could have said this stuff came from Confucius. But in the light of modern research, and especially in the light of revelations made by the excavations in Egypt and Jerusalem within the past 100 years, in 1749, the Tibetan copy was translated into English. Unto Thee I Grant is what they referred to. We can plainly see that the original manuscript was not written by Confucius or anyone of his time or nation or beliefs. There's every indication that throughout the work, as it appears on the following pages, that it was written by Amenhotep IV, Pharaoh of Egypt, during the years 1360 to 1350 BC, or thereafter, or by some of his successors in the great school of mysticism which he founded in Egypt. Reference to any encyclopedia will reveal the fact that this pharaoh upset the priesthood teachings and idol worship of Egypt by establishment of a monotheistic mystical religion. And every authority on the history of religion points to him as the first man in the civilized world, to proclaim belief in one God. And he has been rightfully called the greatest modernist of all time. He established a cult, a secret brotherhood based upon this mystical religion in the city where he founded and named Akhenaten. So they're telling you that these teachings unto Thee I grant, that can also be found in the Moorish Holy Quran, which Prophet Noble Drew Ali didn't say he authored. He said he divinely prepared. These two come from Akhenaten. This is a bonus here. The word Keti, also written Keti, not Kenti, but Keti. Keti who? This is also connected to the scimitar and star of ancient Kemet known as the Kafesh. Keti, Musketi, the constellation of the Big Dipper rotating around the North Star. You see, is an ancient Egyptian personal name that appears frequently in the Middle Kingdom and first intermediary period in history. Its meaning is debated, but Egyptologists generally translate it as the strong one, or he of strength. We have a statement where we say you can't get strength from weak sources. So he derived from Kent, strength embodied, sometimes also associated with the body, or that which is enduring. Since Kent in the Egyptian means thing, object, body, or matter, affair, Keti. It states, in essence, the name Keti carried connotations of strength, endurance, or possession of substance, a fitting title for rulers, scribes, and nobles. So now here you have the scribe that is known as Keti. And if you look, he has his right hand over his breast and his left arm hanging down. So here you have Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and this is a scribe here known as Keti. Now you have a noble who we call the executive ruler, because Keti is the name of noble and executive ruler. Noble Drew Ali has his hand over his heart and his arm hanging down, just like Keti of ancient Kemet. You know, see, I'm giving you adept stuff, people that like to keep it secret. You know, some people don't agree that you get this, but we Heruphants. Heruphants are revealers of the light. We don't conceal the light. So this is just citations of the sources that I draw from, like the great hymn, the Aten. You can actually find a parallel of that in Psalms 104. Those who are Kemetically inclined know what I'm talking about. Ancient Egyptian literature, you know, was also sourced, you know, dealing with ancient records of Egypt, volume 2, boundary of stele of Akhenaten or monostele, royal proclamation defining religious program exclusivity of Aten, you know, Allah in a hat, you know, this is drawn from the Quran, Surah 112, ayat 1 through 4, Suratul Ikhlas, Kuhu Allah hat, you know, we got the various ayats or whatever, Surah 2, 160 through 63, 6, 102, 20, 14. Then the concept of Kemetian, foremost of the gods, lexical attestations, Adolf Herman Grappal, you know, Christian Letts, you know, these are dealing with Kenti as divine epithets, Kemetian, you know, as they occur on temple inscriptions, comparative usage in the New Kingdom, or the tomb inscription where deity's foremost epithets denote supremacy within the polytheistic framework, parallels to Kenti, Neteru, Amentiu. For Osiris, illustrate the structure on the function of Kenti epithets. This is dealing with notes on that anchor of the comparison, exclusivity of the language. The great hymn, again, deals with the old soul God beside whom there is none. And we map this closely to the Kalima Shahada, you know, negation of the partners to Allah, and universality. Aten nourishes the Egyptians and foreigners alike. The great hymn, the Quran, names Allah as Lord of all the worlds. You know, Aten is represented abstractly, not literally, but abstractly, as a radiant disk. Islam prohibits anthropomorphic images of Allah, and from foremost to only. That's what Akhenaten did. He changed the concept of Kemetian for most of the gods to the only God. The Egyptian epithets such as Kemetian encode hierarchical supremacy. Akhenaten radicalizes this into an exclusive supremacy, aligning conceptually with Tawhid. So that's the gist of my drawing. You know, pretty much. I also look this up when y'all get a chance. That's the concept of Allah as the highest God in pre-Islamic Arabia. This is another document, if you want to understand from Kemet. This is also a thesis that was submitted for degree of PhD. This was by Akasha Ndele. Now, y'all might already have his book dealing with the Egyptians, you know, the millennium and so forth and so on. But he speaks on everything that has been derived from Kemet into Islam, from the concept of Tehudi, you know, being incorporated, you know, certain monuments, you know, the goddess Nut, you know, certain things that are mentioned in Islam, you know, somewhat like the hadith I quoted with Muhammad saying exalted is rare above all they associate with him. But you got to look into this. There are sources in here. I don't have time to go into a lot of this now, but this is one of the grand drawings I want y'all to do y'all research on and come back with the knowledge next time we come back. Lastly, in the Yusuf Ali commentary, he spoke on the same thing about Pharaoh of the Exodus, what probably thought means about 1540 BC. The Pharaoh Amenopus IV, around 1350 BC, adopted the worship of the one supreme God as the state religion. He had, and this is coming out of the Quran, the Holy Quran. He had been the high priest of the sun god at Heliopolis, but had begun to look upon a multiplicity of gods in the Egyptian pantheon as a blot on Egyptian religion. His original name had been Amenopet. Amen is satisfied as being devoted to Amen, the great god of the state religion, Thebes. he changed the name, and that's really Ta'apet. He changed the name to Akhenaten, pious to Aten, and worshiped the supreme God under the name of Aten. He abandoned the city of Thebes, being devoted to Amen, and founded a new city near the site of what is now called Tel Amarna, between Thebes and Memphis, and dedicated it to Aten, the supreme God. You know, so it goes on, giving more measures on that right there. I just wanted to get that as a bonus. And at this time, I'm done. And we're going to open up the floor, but I do have some measures to bring forth. If we got somebody that wants some smoke up here, that's going to deal with the linguistics. So let me stop sharing and see if our brother Sa is ready for us to open up the panel. You there, brother Sa? I think Sa might be busy doing something behind the scene. And I see Sadu Berry. When we say Allah, arm, leg, arm, head, we're not saying that Allah has legs. See, you have a shallow concept in your mind. But the Quran says that man's 5 limbs is going to bear witness against him on the day of judgment. So if he say the 5 limbs of man will bear witness against him on the day of judgment, family, that's arm, leg, arm, head. In other words, instead of you trying to blame it on a God outside of self, Allah move around in us, spook. Allah moves around in us. If you don't know that, then you don't know the Quran. You can't have it both ways. Allah said he breathed forth his ruah in man, his spirit. So we're not getting caught up in the flesh, but that don't change the fact that Allah humorously put his signature on the beings of the man. The 5 limbs of man is arm, leg, arm, head. And when you remove all letters from that, you have Allah. You think that's by chance? We even showed you people. We showed you people that in the hieratic and demotic, the anthropomorphic images that they produce actually form the Allah glyph when you lay them horizontal. But when you look at them in the form of the reverse engineered measure, they represent anthropomorphic God beings in the form of men. Arm, leg, arm, head. So we know you still asleep, Sadu Barry. You know, if you don't get it that way. Because we're not trying to say Allah is the physical man. And I ain't saying this to try to beat up on you. You know, I'm saying that when we express this, we're saying the spirit of Allah works through man. So when he say your 5 limbs gonna bear witness against you, yeah, he everywhere. In you too. He near to you than your very jugular vein. So when we say that them 5 limbs gonna bear witness, that means whatever you do, wherever you go, whatever you say, what you allow coming in your ear, that's arm, leg, arm, head. That's the Allah that's gonna judge you. Your ways, acts, and deeds, here and the hereafter. Right? So now watch this. Watch this. Since Saw is still on the journey right now, we're gonna do this. I'm gonna do this right here. I'm gonna give y'all this. Because I wanted to give you this too, just in case somebody got crazy. You know, I was gonna say this for y'all. You see this right here? Going into the root of Kent. This is how I vet my words. For people who want to know how I vet words, there are some words that are purely Egyptian. Then there are some words, you know, that are Kemetic, but they also have, you know, a segue into other languages. You see, and I call these strong words because they're in more than one language. You know, but they all have an Egyptian origin. So some are Egyptian origin, and then you have some that are pure Egyptian. So I went into the ancient Egyptian, Phoenician, Hebrew, and Arabic word, and I looked for the root, Kent, which y'all know that means foremost, first, right? And I will provide the word language meaning for the etymological notes, right? And the etymological notes, right? This root often relates to front, foremost, leading, consecration, ritual, depending on the culture. Now we're going to see why they say this. So first we come with ancient Egyptian middle early dynastic. Khenti means, again, foremost, chief. We told you, Khenti Amen, foremost of Amun. Khenti, face, indicates, the front principal part of a building or statue. Khenti Hotep, he who is foremost in peace. So when you see the word Khenti, now you know it means first or foremost, if you did. The title of a ranking officials and priests. Khenti Neteru, foremost of the gods. We already covered that. Aten used that to raise, Akhenaten used that to raise Aten to supremacy. A divine epithet applied to major deities originally. Khentset, the foremost in protection, used as an epithet of temple guardian. This is Egyptian language, right? Ancient Egyptian. Now let's go to the root K, N, T, and Y in Phoenician. And Phoenician and Punic is the same for people who don't know. Kent, offering consecration, appears in the votive inscriptions on stelae. Kent also means leader, first, term for city rulers or military leaders. So we can see that this word, Phoenician, most definitely has its origin in the Kemetic word. Because remember, this is leader, first and foremost, priest, high-ranking priest. But this is Phoenician. See, Kent means to dedicate, a verb used in ritual context. Khenti, again, foremost, principal. This is Phoenician now. Used in the epithets from prominent citizens. Also, Kent means initiated, consecrated, right? Here we go again. This is in Hebrew. This is Kenat. Kenat is another way of dealing with the root, to dedicate or to consecrate. We see how close that is to Phoenician. We know because Phoenician gives birth to the Hebrew. So it says also, Kenat means foremost, a lead. Applied in biblical poetry, leaders or chiefs of tribe. So here we have three languages saying the same root, mean the same thing. This is how you deal with etymology. This is how I'm sure that the words mean what they say they mean, because I'm using the words of origin and tracing them back to their source. And all of them say the same thing. Kantar is another word which is with the root, and it goes back to what we call chief principle, archaic form used in liturgical and ceremonial contexts. Then we have Canute, front or forefront, a rare biblical term associated with leading position. That's a Kemetic word. This is why it's not strange to see these connections, family. Last but not least, I have Arabic here. This is actually what we would call the Nabatean script, which you can see a lot of the symbols that are often seen in Proto-Canaanite, Proto-Sinaitic, right here along the side. This is Arabic in its proto form. The same Arabic I was showing when we came up and I was showing you the Demotic glyph, in the Arabic. So in Arabic, the word kanat means to lead, to be foremost. Classical Arabic root carrying the precedence or leadership. Same thing that it means in Hebrew, same thing that it means in Phoenician, same thing that it means in Kemet. That's why I call it a strong word, right? Because it carried over in all these, that's 4 different languages saying the same thing. They can't be lying, people. Connect, to consecrate, dedicate, used in classic texts as a religious ritual. Same thing. Kanati, my foreperson, leader, term of respect for chiefs or dignitaries. You see? Kanat, Akhent, front, forefront, leading, edge, poetic and descriptive usages. Kunt, chiefly preeminent. It says used in later medieval Arabic manuscripts. This is what they call somebody chiefly preeminent. This is always elevating some ruler or some leader or dedicated to ritual and consecration. Leaders are often consecrated to be leaders. This is mutan, also consecrated and dedicated. So, this nominal form derived from KNT root and often applied, to temples or sacred objects. You feel me? We can't make this stuff up, people. So again, our observation, etymological notes across all 4 languages, the KHNT, the ligature that we showed you that come from the Allah group consistently carries the sense of foremost, leader, or consecration, or consecrated. In Egyptian, it is often applied in titles, divine epithets. In Phoenician and Hebrew, it is tied to ritual dedication or leadership. In Arabic, the root retains foremost consecration meanings and produces active nominal forms. You see, this is what I had waiting on y'all if I had some naysayers. So what we find out about the word neter, even though the glyph is the proto-glyph that was later adopted from hieratic into Arabic, you know, neter is a pure Kemetic word. You know, a god, divine being, deity, often used to refer to gods and goddesses. Neteru, the gods and divine beings, plural of neter. Neterah, the great god, supreme deities. Netert, goddess, female deity. Neterkent, there it is again, Kent, god of the beginning associated with creation. So this would be the foremost god of creation, Neter, Neterkent. Neterset, you know, gods of destruction, particularly associated with the god Set. Neter Imhotep. This is divine peace, often used as a title for divine beings or symbols of peace. That's how you should greet your people. Neter Imhotep. Instead of just saying Hetep, Neter Imhotep. Because that's divine peace that you're offering to. So we find here, this is where we see the Kemetic connection. We already told you about, you know, and I went into the main 7 Egyptian words related to God and divinity that incorporates the sound Al, Allah, Alu, Ah, Ar, Aru, Aru, La, and Ra. Same ones that I mentioned to y'all in the beginning. These are Kemetic words, meaning one, Al, Kemetically, synonymous with Ar, the divine God. This term can be used to refer to divinity in a general sense, often in connection with divine power or celestial beings. It could also be part of the name of God or a divine title. The meaning, divine God, from Allah, divine God. Remember, I was telling y'all this is the name for God in Kemet. It represents a state of being. Allah, Kemetically, divine God, this word used to denote something or someone with divine status, emphasizing sacredness in the divine nature of a person or being. Alu, meaning God's field, the field of peace, sacred ground. While it refers to fertile land, it also is a metaphorical expression for a divine sacred space designated for the gods. See, field of peace. Aya, meaning radiance or bright. This term is often associated with divine light, referring to the illumination of the gods and celestial beings such as the radiance of the sun or moon. Meaning, again, Ar, God or divine being, same as Al. This word is commonly used in the context of divine beings or deities. This is Egyptian now. It can refer to singular or single God or the collective or concept of gods. Here's another, Anru, Adra, meaning divine light or sacred radiance. It refers to the sacred radiance associated with divine being, like that of the Aten disk, the light that emanates from deities, particularly in relation to the sun and other celestial bodies. Second Anru, second Allah. Come on, man. Also, Ra, meaning Ra, the sun god. Ra is of the most important gods, one of the most important gods of Egypt, representing the sun, creation, and kingship. He was considered as the king of the gods and creator of all life. You know, then we have, along with this, we had the Phoenician drawing. And it goes on, you know, Phoenician El mean God, Ella, you know, is a Phoenician measure. Elohim is Phoenician. Then you add the concept of Baal, Lord, and title for gods. But then that segues over into the Hebrew language. El and Elo and Elohim were adopted from the Phoenician, which represent El as one God, Elo as one God, a singular form. And then you had Elohim, you know, and this is just like the Neteru demonstration. You know, but I'm showing you the Egyptian connection, the Phoenician connection, you know, the Hebrew connection, and then we go to the Arabic. You know, they use the term Ilah, you know, as God in the general term. Then they use the term Allah as the God, the one true deity. Say La ilaha illallah means there is no God but Allah. In Islam, a direct derivative from the same root as Ilah, and then they have Ma'bud, the deity, one who's worshipped, Rab, Lord, Master, and so forth and so on. So notes on etymology. Last thing, neter, ancient Egyptian, implies the concept of divine supernatural beings, both male and female, and the sa.neter. This concept is consistent across these languages. In Phoenician and Hebrew, the root morphed into terms for God, gods, Elohim, reflecting the divinity and supernatural nature of beings. Arabic terms reflect the development of the concept of God, with Ilah being the general term for God and Allah being the specific monotheistic term for God. A big difference for people who like to keep coming up with the nonsense. This lexicon illustrates the evolution of the concept of the divine from one language to another, with a shared cultural linguistic ancestry rooted in Semitic traditions. And that's really all that need to be presented. And that's overkill, family. It's a done deal. So until I see Sa up here again, until he come back, in case he is already here, I'm gonna go through the comments up here and communicate with our people. So there you have it, though. Akhenaten's Proto-Islamic monotheism. The Aten had a law connection, that I brought forth, family, is, you can't, how you gonna go against it? Akhenaten basically was the Muhammad of his time, and Muhammad was the Akhenaten of his time. There you go, Saw. What you think about that, Saw? Was that overload in sources?
Man, you awesome, brother. You going in on that, brother. You going in.
Yeah, but that's it right there, Saw. Like I said, and you see how I showed the pure Kemetic word is neter for God, right?
Right.
But then they also had the Kemetic words that gave birth like to the Allah, and then the Hebrew says the same thing. Phoenicians say the same thing. Arabic say the same thing. So how you gonna go against that? Goodness gracious.
Yeah, see, the Muslims that's out there, they don't want no real smoke from you on this.
No.
You don't find this information in the Quran.
No. And then we ain't no spookism.
Right.
Yeah, before they were saying La ilaha illallah, they were saying Kenti Neteru.
Go ahead. Talk about it, man. See?
The foremost of the gods. Ain't nothing wrong with acknowledging that y'all got it from Kemet. And until they admit that, we're going to stay divided. Because really what I just showed them, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, and that's what I always say. I say all these religions today, from Islam, Judaism, all of it, the Bible, it all came out of Kemet first. And yes, they sprinkled a little bit on it. They added some things, took out some things. And so because they wanted to be directly saying that, it's not going to say it directly because they had to try to hide certain things,
And that's what the problem was on the Atenism when Akhenaten produced it, because the priest was saying, they say the priest was taking money and saying who could worship. So Akhenaten got upset with that. And then he brought forth the new worship because he said, well, this God gonna be for everybody. He ain't gonna be exclusive to this temple or exclusive to that temple. But a lot of people don't know a lot of reason why that worship had to be corrected. It wasn't because of our ancestors. It was because the Hyksos had invaded Kemet and usurped the throne before that time of Akhenaten, and they had placed their own concept of worship up there, not understanding what our ancestors believed in. So as a foreigner, you come in, usurp the throne, and then you go to worshiping our ancestors. But we didn't teach it that way. We looked at our ancestors as being attributes, embodiments of the attributes. We didn't worship our ancestors in the physical form. This was ignorant people, savages coming in, usurping the throne, and they started making people worship them when they came in with the sword. So Akhenaten came behind that, and all he did was correct the worship, just like Muhammad did before Muhammad did. He destroyed all the idols and reestablished the worship of the one God.
Why do you think people think because they switch from one plantation slave master to another plantation master, thinking that they found a holy and true religion? Because most of the Muslims, They come from Christianity. You know, they go to jail. They become Muslim. They think they found a good religion. No, you just exchanged one slave master for an Arab slave master. That's all you did.
That's right. That's right. Especially if you didn't correct the worship. Just like I was like the true Muhammad is Muhammad of the light. It ain't got nothing to do with the physical man.
There you go.
If you go deal with the spirit of the message, because you get caught up in the man, that's where man worship coming in. And now you're Arabizing things. Because the Arabs will say, well, we don't believe in nationalism. Well, all right, stop saying you descend from Prophet Muhammad then.
You said something earlier in your presentation. You said Prophet Noble Drew Ali don't teach us to worship the God that exists outside. God exists within. And you say that.
Right.
But when people say that, they forget to mention evil, to Satan, the devil. Because if God exists within, so does Satan exist within. You are the God of this world. You are the light of this world. And you are also the devil of this world. You see, it's up to you to lock that down and live righteously. Let God manifest. You see what I'm saying? Not the devil. Let God manifest them. That's why in the Bible it says they did what? They changed them up. For how many years? Forever? For life? Don't it say something about in the Bible? I forgot what scripture it is. Keon, help me, Keon.
Well, you know, Sir, in the Moorish Holy Quran, that's why we say man seeks to deliver himself from a devil that he called a living monster. But the devil is your lower self.
Fine, that's it. There it is.
The devil is your lower self.
There you go.
The higher self is spirit, clothed, soul made in the form of Allah. The devil is the lower self.
Thank you, brother. You got it, man.
Do you know that a devil didn't even exist in the Old Testament?
Wow.
No, I didn't know that. In the Old Testament. The devil came into existence in the New Testament. Go look it up.
Oh, wow. Damn, I ain't know that, bro. That's fire right there.
There was no devil in the Old Testament. You know, all they use is the term accuser of men, but they don't use the term devil. So that comes way in the New Testament. But like that's dealing with the lower self. And so we believe, like I said, we don't worship gods outside of the self. That's why I said earlier, when you look into the face of man, you look into the face of law. That's a Kemetic teaching. That's a Kemetic teaching. When you look into the face of, take a law for it. When you look into the face of man, you look into the face of God. You can see Kemetian, right?
Right.
It's a Ra speaks to man through man. That's the light that speaks to the light in you, and the light that from you into the light in me. See, it's simple, Saw, but they're making it complicated.
The reason why they want to hold on to this Jesus and Yahweh and Muhammad, you know, is because they are afraid to let it go. They are afraid that they really believe that they're going to go to the hellfire. They don't know that they living in hell. They living in heaven is what you make it of your life. Is what you make your life to be. You can make it heaven or you can make that shit hell if you want.
That's right.
It's heaven and hell is a state of mind. It's a state of mind, bro. When they going to learn this?
That's right. You know, and that's what we say, Allah didn't make a heaven or hell for man.
Right.
You know, in the Lord's teaching, you know, but the heaven and hell, like you say, is your thinking. If you go out there and you rob a store, for example, you know the consequences behind your action.
There you go. You did a devilish action. You did some devilish deeds. And so the energy you put out is what you receive back.
And that's hell. You remember, I know you remember when it said this. When a Muslim commits a sin, he's not a Muslim.
Yes.
Because you live in hell. You say you Muhammad Al Akbar. You say you brother, you know, Isra Khan or whatever name you, but in the moment of that act that you commit, murdering somebody, killing, you ain't even Muslim. You know, I mean, that's through the text of Islam. But like you said, they get caught up in the man and not get the message. Muhammad ain't here now. Jesus ain't here now. You know what I mean? Prophet Noble Drew Ali not physically here. But if we believe in the concept of the message transcends the body.
There you go.
You see, that's why the prophet taught the Moors. He say, I can better teach you from the plane of soul, because they're the enemy, can't hide.
All right, I got somebody that might want to come in and have a question, or he might want to add to it. What's up, Rakufu?
What's up, family? Let me fix this thing on there.
Okay, fix it. Let me go on over to the next person. Peace and blessings, brother. What's happening? Wise man, what's up, brother?
Hey, how you doing, black man? How you doing? Okay, yes, sir. Hey, yeah, so I rock with the brother, man. I like what he brought out. I like what he was saying. I just wanted a question. So, brother, would it be safe to say that man is light? Because I heard you say that Allah is the light. Okay, you answered my question. That's what I wanted to know. So, man is the light and like you said, there is no God outside the self. Is that right?
That's right. That's his true identity.
Okay, well, I thought we had a point that we disagreed on, but I can't argue with that, bro. So it's safe to say that man is God, then, that he's looking for.
Of course, yes, sir.
Man, that was it, sir. I ain't really got no questions outside of that.
But not only is man is God, but also man is also the devil.
That's facts. Because where could the devil come from unless God created him, right? And if man is God, then I mean he created the devil too.
The devil comes from you. That's where the devil come from, with your ways and your actions. Like Brother Kemetian said, when you act in your lower self, you being a wicked, evil person, a devil. When you act in your higher self, you being
then
God.
You accessing God. That's right.
You see?
We just two expressions of each extreme. I agree with it.
So when they wrote these religious books, they was writing them in the concept of human, of us, of the people. Our people thinking that these mythologies are real. When they say Adam lived to be, Abraham lived to be 100 years old, he got children when he was 80. Come on, man. This is mythology, brother.
Elder Sarge, did you see the show that I did? Yo, shout out Kemetian, my brother. That's my brother from another mother. I love Kemetian. Yo, I did a show recently on Super Wavy channel. You know what I'm saying? It was called the Atheist God Complex, and I broke that down. You know what I'm saying? Like people are looking at the scriptures on a literal, right? And that becomes problematic. You can't always look at there's historic truths to it, but there are codified. There's codex. There's language that has to be read in between. And that's why I love Kemetian, because he knows how to break those barriers. You understand what I'm saying? And reach those through different religious paradigms. You know what I'm saying? I love Kemetian. That's my brother right there. But I did a show on that whole thing. And the Atheist God Complex, later on I saw Nepal, she did a show on the same topic. Like, we all on the same vibe right now. Like, you know what I'm saying? The inner God is over here kicking atheist butts right now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
you
there you
never,
go.
I can't get away from the humanity. You can never get away from the human condition. And that is both good and bad. We have to try to balance or try to, perfect ourselves. That is the goal at the end of the day, is self-perfection, you have to mold this thing. Your parents mold you up into a certain age, but after that, it's on you.
There you go.
To become a god, or become a devil.
I got to work right now for it. So I wanted to ask you, Kemetian, you started with Akhenaten as like coming in with the monotheistic type of concept, but in Kemet, way before Akhenaten, the word Nebuchadnezzar, before Aten was ever thought. You didn't use that word today either. I'm surprised. You used a lot of nature, but you didn't say Nebuchadnezzar, which is the Lord of the limit, the Lord of all. And this was taught in Kemet thousands of years before Akhenaten was even thought of. So they wasn't a polytheistic society, is my point. They always knew the Lord of all, and they called him Nebuchadnezzar. Can you speak on that? Because I know you know about it.
Yeah. I'm gonna tell you why I didn't mention that. Because actually, Tehuti was the teacher of that in which you're speaking of. He was the first to introduce that concept. In fact, in Islam, they say Tehuti was the messenger that was sent to Kemet. But my emphasis was on the Allah glyph the proto-aloglyph coming from the 18th dynasty.
Okay.
You know, so now you know that information on Akasha M. Daily. It goes into all of that in which you referring to. I had showed it up there as a source. So yes, it was there. But remember, I said the Hyksos had came when we were just speaking, and they usurped the original teaching, not knowing what our ancestors were teaching, and they were into the man worship. Akhenaten was a return back to that monotheism, is what I was getting at. But it was already monotheism, as you stated before that. So yeah, we agree.
Okay, I know you did, but I want to ask you. So would you say when they say that, and then Moses came, or what was it? And they knew not the Hebrew children. Remember when was that
that's the Hyksos?
Yeah, go ahead.
That's the Hyksos. Yeah. But that didn't just happen during the time, you know, of Moses. That's Moses. That happened during the time of Joseph. That's what you're referring to.
Yes.
And so what it is, they came in gradually. You know, when we talk about King Mina, uniting Lower and Upper Kemet, these foreigners start coming in from that time period on, because the Hyksos, they actually have an ancestry that goes back to those who are referred to as the Amu.
The Amu, yeah.
And the Amu are actually known as the original troglodyte nigger.
Okay.
You know, in certain texts. So you know who that is.
My last question to you,
yeah, that's a man beast.
Okay, you know where when they found the Kustal incense burner, Tassetti was there already before, like the brother in the rap song Jonathan Owens say, Tassetti was there already. My thing is, Tassetti, would you go back? Because then as I went back and I started looking at them grave sites, they got Kemetic sa.neter on little bitty like towels with action figures, words of action, way before Sumerian. But they hadn't found them graves yet in the South. So you think, and there's another one called Dookie Kale. It's a society that they just kind of dug up.
I'm familiar with Dookie Kale.
We got to come into that. I've been talking to all the brothers about it. We got to get some information about it, because I understand it's its own African-centered, like Black African-centered way of Kemetic ways, like Nubia. It was another extent.
Yes, sir.
We need to,
yes,
and
sir.
they just dug it up. I don't know how much information on it is. They still digging. They still finding stuff to this day. And the French and the Sudanese government joined together to do the digs.
If I were to give a symbolic interpretation of what Kemet became to the world in all simplicity, Brother MK, I would say that it represents a Humpty Dumpty, so to speak. You know, all the king horses with all the king men, you couldn't put them back together again. Meaning the wisdom has been scattered throughout the world.
Right.
But see, people, that's why I keep saying, until people become honest and admit that's the source, we're going to stay divided.
Yep.
Because if you trace it back to the source, then we can come into the oneness. Go ahead, brother.
Hey, hold on. Shout out to Cornelius. The comment went up, but I think the brother or sister, I don't know who it is. The comment went up, and the person put this scripture inside of the chat. And see, there it is, right there. You got to read between the lines. It's giving you the message. You got to be able to decipher it. It says now that he has asked by the Philistines. I mean, by the what's that? The Pharisees.
Yeah, the Pharisees.
When the kingdom of God will come, he answered them and said, the kingdom of God does not come with observation, nor will they say, see here or see there. For indeed, the kingdom of God is within you.
That's right.
The kingdom of God is within you. You don't see it with your eyes. You can't see it in observation. It's within you. It's not outside of you, man.
That's right, Star.
All day.
Now you remember, Star, remember I was talking about the Amenti. When they talk about the underworld, that's what I'm talking about.
Now see, that's in your scriptures, Christians and Hebrews. But y'all will make something else of it, and y'all will try to say, "Oh, what it means is this and that." Like, come on, man.
Well, that's the slave interpretation.
You still got to go to the interpretation, because interpretation.
And you read the Hebrew, brother?
No. Well, I have a rabbi who does that and helps.
Go to the blue. Go to the blue note and read it. Go ahead. Luke 17:20.
And that would be in Greek because all the Gospels are in Greek.
Okay.
Yeah, so
the New Testament, most of the
Hey,
New
let me get my brother Assam Khan in the building, man. Assam, what up, brother?
What's up, y'all? How's it going?
You got to get a green screen. If you're going to do that, you got to get a green screen, bro.
Because it keep messing up every time I do it.
That's what I told a few people.
Hey, you disappearing on this.
Yo, listen. This is what I told a few people, right? When you go to the store, buy a king size green sheet, linen.
I need
king size green sheet. And there you go. Put it to the wall, and I guarantee your image will be way better.
Where'd you get them at, Star? What store?
Any store. Go to any store, brother. That's
it. Got a lime green sheet.
Okay, Best Buy.
Go to Target. Go to Target. Go to
Okay.
Kmart. Go somewhere like that.
Okay.
Buy a green sheet. You ain't even got to go to the camera store and get a green screen.
Okay.
Right. You get a green screen, a sheet, king size.
Good to go.
Take that joint to the wall, nail it to the wall, and you good.
Okay.
You good money. Yo, Assam Khan, you look like Max Headroom right now.
Glitchy.
Johnny
That's that light over there.
The YNs won't know who Max Headroom is. So you know what I'm saying?
Old school,
that's them Aten rays shining off your MK.
That's right. You see the hands popping off the head right there.
You know what I'm saying?
Hey, Kemetian.
Oh yeah. Hey, somebody said green. Somebody said Best Buy. Who said Best Buy?
I did.
You
don't go to Best Buy to buy a sheet.
No, I thought you said when you said green screen, I thought it was something to do with computer stuff.
No, that's electronics. That's the electronics and all that.
Okay.
Screen.
Let's go get your green screen from Walmart, and then you put things in the background. So my brother Kemetian Adept, you did some pretty good work today. I only got a few pushback points. And that's just to make the show interesting. I'm not sure if it's in the chat or if you said it, because the chat is acting like they said it. Somebody said that the Coptic came before the hieroglyphic and the hieratic.
Oh, they retarded if they said that.
Oh, see, y'all tripping.
Yeah,
all right?
Yeah, they retarded if they said that. They don't know the language. Coptic, is actually one of the later developed. What I did mention about Coptic, I was telling them that it has been pushed by Western academia that the letter L was only introduced in Coptic. What I said, it originated actually 5,000 years ago in sound among what we call cuneiform. It wasn't the letter L, it was the la, li, and the lu sound. It became manifest as L during the time of Proto sa.neter, Proto Canaanite, Phoenician, and so forth and so on, around about 1850 up to 1050 BCE. You know what I mean? That's when it became a literal L. So I was telling them outside of Western academia that L sound was there, even though it may have not been used in the Kemetic aspect, because the alphabet chart wasn't even created during that time. There was no alphabet chart.
Wasn't it used as an R sound as well?
Yeah, it was. But see, that's in the hieratic. See, I try to get people to understand that, what we have now, with all due respect, with Champollion's methodology, is what he put together. You see what I'm saying? But when we go back to the ancient Egyptians, they don't have, no original alphabet chart. The closest that they have during that time is what they call Meroitic, right? And Meroitic is a totally different script. Some people say it ain't fully been deciphered, but I got the key to being able to decipher. But that's a whole nother measure. I'm gonna do that in my work when I put these books out here. Like Proto-Canaanite, they refer to both Meroitic and Proto-Canaanite as pseudo-alphabetical scripts. Even, Champollion's script is referred by certain Egyptologists as pseudo-alphabetic scripts. But the thing is, what we're getting in is that our ancestors back in the day, when they came forth with these pictures, what we is certain, they represented people, places, and things. And so that's why I was showing our family, like through them 4 languages, ancient Egyptian, Phoenician, and Hebrew and Arabic. When you look at them words having the same root and saying the same thing, that's how I trace my words to find the origin. But if a word is mostly what it is, like neter is purely Kemetic. You don't find any other words out of, that referring to it. You'll see people say niggas, and all this and so forth and so on. But neter is a purely Kemetic word. You see what I'm saying? But words like alu and Allah, that's like an origin word, and they actually have long roots in them, so to speak. So that's why you see the connection between the four.
Kemetian,
Let me ask
real quick, War Child, let me just say this to him. Kemetian.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Clyde Winters, right? The brother?
Yeah, very familiar with Dr. Clyde.
I would love for you to correlate with him on the Meretic script because he's claimed, I'm not saying
he's saying he's doing it.
He said he's done it.
He done did it.
So that'd be good to correlate. But go ahead, though. Anybody?
Our brother Clyde passed away, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I made a mistake on that. That was another Clyde, Sar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a different.
That's good.
Oh man.
So Kemetian, I wanted to ask you a question relating to, linguistics and etymology, right? So with my Israelite community, I'm an Israelite, and and I love all my Israelite brothers. I love all my Morse brothers. You know what I'm saying? With the paleo, right? So I study under my rabbi. I study the modern Hebrew, which has
the Masoretic text.
Right. Yeah. So it's dealing with the vowels and stuff like that, which you don't necessarily see in the ancient text. However, what my rabbi stated is that a lot of these cats are doing the abba dabba yabba dabba do stuff, but really not understanding the context of the words, and so they're missing where the vowels would change to make a change in the context. You feel what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
That's called sound shifting. That's all it is. For example, right? If I were to take an Aten, like I was speaking earlier, and I change it to a D, it becomes Aden in Arabic or Hebrew. That's how words change. A lot of people don't know these letters. Some of the letters that you might find in hieratic are the same letters that later come in Phoenician, but they might be crooked at a different angle, or they might turn it upside down. And that's why it looked like different characters, but really these are the same character. I know what I'm talking about. They would take certain letters. Yeah, like Punic and Phoenician. Punic and Phoenician is the same thing, but just at different periods of time. But if you look at the slight changes, it's nothing more than the angling of the character. But it's still the same character.
Would that change the vowel sound in the?
Well, it changes not the sound. It's just the context and the way that the people brought it forth for using.
Got you.
Right, the way they use
it. Or something is a singular, that would be changed by how they shifted the letters.
Right, but 9 times out of 10, sometimes the definition will still be the same. That's why you'll find a word that might be KH, but then it might just been K in another language. You see, or sometimes it might have been C in another language, but they have the same definition.
If you want the vowels, you go to the Coptic, right? So
that's
this is
that's
how they understood how to say some of the terms and some of the words. Now, the other work that's being done by some others, and I made my attempt at it, I haven't finished up. You go into the African languages and find the similar terms with the people who are in correlation to that location. So that would be the other thing to do, which is happening now. But
and that's you tracing it through etymology, basically.
Yeah.
So to you,
indigenous Hebrew is hilarious.
Hold on. Indigenous black man he got to be a deep brother because he accused everybody of stealing.
Everybody.
You see that?
He said Zaria Jabari. He said Kemetian later on stealing my stuff, and I'm like, yo, it's shout out to indigenous black man.
You know what? I used to get mad at indigenous. Now I just laugh.
Right. Indigenous funny as hell, man. Shout out to I think indigenous to get y'all run for the money though. He know his stuff now. It ain't like he know his shit.
You know his
Indigenous
shit.
be on point sometimes. He be on point on occasion. Let me
He
ask you
loved
this.
Wait, hold up,
He
Asar. I was
loved
gonna ask Asar and Kemetian, both of you guys. You know the word bear. Like I say, bear in mind that I'm gonna drink me some alkaline water. You get the understanding that statement. Then if I say I'm in a cave and a bear attacked me, we know that's another bear.
Right.
But if I take 3,000 years, if I take 3,000 years away from there and I don't have those words around it, and you see bear and bear, how do you distinguish?
That's a good question. You got to go by the context. You got to.
You ain't gonna yabba dabba do it. You ain't gonna do what you yabba dabba do.
No, you ain't gonna do it like that.
He's been copying me. He been listening to
sorry
how
to my Israelite brothers, Israelite brothers who are on that paleo stuff, and it's okay, you know what I'm saying? But y'all are missing the cultural context of how words were pronounced in their sentences. So in a lot of those sentences, if it was a certain context, it would change, even though you don't see a vowel sound in there. Right. It's all consonants. At the end of the day, the vowel sound changes depending on the context of the speech. And that came from our rabbi, Rod Sayadonis. Shout out. We're gonna do a show. Me and Rod Sayadonis are gonna do a show on sa.neter. Y'all gonna love it.
You should point out the fact that the Hebrew, when it was a dead language, was deciphered by using the Monotheism and the Greek.
Yeah.
This is how you end up putting your vowels in your language. So if you're not familiar with how it starts to get its phonetic values and how you start to pronounce these words other than Egypto speak, you need to go look at the Coptic text and then also look at that Demotic text, because that becomes, all you got to do is pull up E.A. Wallace Budge's dictionary and you'll see the forms right there. This is why Kemetian is saying what he's saying.
Basics, yo.
Because
God,
if you
Budge
open
is
it, you can
basic.
see he graduates you from Monotheism. Matter of fact, he goes to Paleo to Monotheism all the way to Arabic.
He even does. He even has a book on Ge'ez. Wallace Budge did a book on Ge'ez and the Ethiopian text. So he's rounded, yo. You know,
King J, what you doing to the queen, man? She looks sad, man. What you doing to her, man? You look sad on your arm, brother. What you doing?
We are chilling.
All right. Oh, where you at, bro?
Good.
Okay.
Little beach chilling. Yeah.
That's what's up, man.
Hey, are you fishing? Are you fishing?
There's some people out here fishing.
He got that water, baby. And he iced out. Now, don't get, is that watch waterproof now?
I thought King J was going to say, "Let her cry."
Superstar J.
Hey, yo, King J, when you gonna get in the ring, brother? You a bad dude, man. I ain't gonna front. You know your stuff too. You a bad brother.
King J, the trainer. He's not the boxer. He's the trainer.
Nah, I need to get in that ring for sure. Sometime soon. So I'm gonna get a presentation together. I definitely got some topics for you for sure. Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I was checking out the presentation today by the brother Kemetian. It definitely was decent. I was under the impression he was trying to combine like the hieratic into the Aramaic block script. Is that kind of basically what we're seeing the similarities?
Well, what I was doing, and I was just going to mention that, really it wasn't a combining. It was proven that glyph that became known as the Allah glyph is really a proto-glyph that existed in hieratic a couple of times. I just used two of the main ones. And I went into the context of what these things meant. Kemti, for example, mean foremost, and neter meaning God. So foremost of the gods being taught by Amenhotep, which was Akhenaten, came into existence basically during the 18th dynasty. So I'm saying monotheism really came into existence during the time, returned anyway, we can say, because it always was there in Kemet even before Akhenaten. And so I was showing that symbol came from, the Kemetics indirectly, not only in hieratic, but even Demotic. And the Arabs inherited that whether they know it or not. And it still had something to do with God, the foremost of the gods. Like the Kalima Shahada, when they said there's no God. No, the Kemetic way was Kenti Neteru. you know, the foremost of the gods.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Aten raised it to, basically.
We got a question in there. One of the Sound of Music, he said, Sa, what's the panel view on the megalith? How you say it? The megalith.
Megalithic. Yeah.
Megalithic structure. I can't even say it. The megalithic.
The big structures. Yeah.
The megalithic structure.
The pyramids and the Sphinx, basically.
How were they built and by who? Who want to answer that?
Wait, can I just say this real quick before Creation passes the floor? There is literally in one of the pyramids, or I believe in one of the temples, there is literally a relief on how they did it. So whenever all these cats are coming in here talking about, oh, aliens did it, they're just trying to deny the fact that Africans were able to create these kinds of mathematically precise structures. They don't want to ever give us credit for that. But in the reliefs, it shows you how they did it. And then a white dude on YouTube, y'all can look it up. The white dude on YouTube literally took the relief and tried to replicate it. He replicated it. It was easy with the pulley systems and he explained how they did it. It's already on the wall. They told you how they built it. So you're not gonna come over here with no grays and no freaking daggone Ashtar commands flying out of the sky. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I see. I saw.
Well, you know what
man is. You know what I'm talking.
I'm gonna give you something simple. I'm gonna give you something simple too, Zion. And all of us can really identify with this. I'm pretty sure everybody can agree. Look at some of the monuments that were unfinished, such as Ambu Symbol. And that gives you an idea. If you go into the pyramids, if you notice, they look cavernous. You know, right? They find cavernous is in mountains in most cases, right?
Yes, sir.
My concept is that I believe through some of the history as well, most pyramids started off as step pyramids, right? But if you were to deal with the bricks and the blocks, they are not perfect stone. These are stones that are set up. So imagine carving out sections of step pyramids, right? And then layering those stones all the way down the pyramid. You see?
Right.
This is why the pyramid is unmoved, because I personally feel some of them were mountain carved just by the inside of them. But they did do the plastering, you know, the stamping in wet mud, because people think they carved. Holy impression is the most accurate description because they are so perfect. They stamp these things into mud, just like you ever seen where if somebody laid something down, if you from the project, they had a wet mud down there. You know what I mean? And so also look at Abu Symbol though. It's unfinished. It was carved. You see what I'm saying? Right. So something, that's why they call the Egyptians stone cutters. It's a reason for that. You know, but that's some of the
cases though, where the limestone was cut out of, the limestone and all of that stuff, they even know the quarries where they got it from. So this ain't no space aliens.
We showed here on Sa's
ingenuity. You know what I'm saying? Egyptian, African, North African, male ingenuity.
We showed here on Sa's site. I showed the tomb. I showed the guys who pulled it. They say it was 100,000 who would pull it. And then we showed them also pulling Memnon's statue, which is 800 tons on one of the giant sleds. We also showed the the diary of one of the brothers who went to go get some of the stones to build the pyramid from another location that I believe is in Aswan. So we have all that information, plus we got them physically on the wall. The problem is we don't believe what we see. Now you got those giant strings to pull the sleds up the hill right next to the Merku, right next to the pyramid. So
all of that,
you have all the evidence there, except for the people who did it physically still here with us. You have to believe in yourself at some point in time. If you don't believe in your black self, who's going to do it for you?
Who's going to do it for you? And MK, on that same note,
Drink
on
it,
that same note.
be parched.
That's right. A.M. Cobb. On that same note, brother, the oldest document by Marari, 4500 or 4600 BC, that's the actual document telling you of working on the Great Pyramid. That's what it's dealing with. Right. The oldest document in Kemet. So they ain't gonna just create that document and say men were working on it if they wasn't.
Right. Commission Adept, real quick. You notice, have you ever read this book, and how much credit do you give to this? Was 40 years of research with the Dogon. It's called The Pale Fox. Right? This is the only book.
That's a new one to me right there, brother.
It is? Oh, you got to get, if you get a chance,
I got it.
This book right here is where they know about the world knows about the Dogon. This was a French, they sat there were scholars, they lived with them for 40 years, and they only got to the clear word. It's certain levels. They didn't even get up to the highest level. It took them 40 years just to get to the clear word. They talk about the Nomo, these fish beings that came from Syria Sea. They showed them different.
I'm familiar with the Nomo.
So they show, man, it's a cold read. I know you would love it.
They actually say that was the first. They say that was the first. I think it was Manly P. Hall talked about that in some of his work, Secret Teachers of All Ages. He talked about the fish god.
He did.
Yeah, the fish god being the oldest worship of a deity coming out of the waters.
Dagon, I read all of them. Dagon. So right here in LA where I'm at, the temple, the PRS, Metaphysics something Research Center of Manly P. Hall is right in Hollywood. I pass that thing all the time.
Oh, I didn't even know he had no.
Yep.
Yeah. That was a bad boy.
Yeah, he is. He messed with Madame Blavatsky a little bit too. He got a statue of her up in the a cast statue of her up in there. The language of creation, cosmic symbols in Genesis. And I can't see the author. Your hand. Who's the author?
Matthew Pagel.
Oh, Matthew Pagel.
Yeah. Okay. Matthew Pagel. Yeah, Pagel.
Pagel. I'm familiar with some of the works there.
I had to wipe that because you know what I'm saying.
You've been putting in work, brother. That's all.
I'm getting ready to close out, right? I'm gonna let Commission close out, but I want everybody to know I'm looking for some real men. I want to do a men's panel. Yeah, I might have to bring in Elder Suntan for this. I'm looking for a man. Nah, you might be too young, brother. You too young.
You on the elders.
Listen to me. You too young. And Commission is too young. And I think Asar might be too young. Asar Ka. So I got Elder Suntan. I got Rakufu, me, and then I'm gonna get a few other brothers, right? And I'm gonna tell you what I was thinking about. Let me let y'all know what I was thinking about. And I think it'll be a good panel for a lot of brothers, man. They gonna love this. Who are the best love makers from age 30 to the women that's in their 50s or 40s and past? That's why I say you too young, brother. That's why I say that.
I respect that. I'm gonna let y'all have that.
Yeah. Hold on, slow down. Who are the best lovers? I would say lovers. Who are the best lovers from the age of 30 to the women that's in their 40s and 50s? That's the question. Yeah. Yes, I would say 45 to 50. Who are the best lovers? And the reason I'm coming up with that is because I was just thinking about when I was in my 30s, I had this woman who was like going into her 50s. And when I tell you, brother, that this woman was bad, listen, she was bad, brother. She was beautiful. She was all that, the body still looking like she'll put these young girls to shame. Damn. And I'm trying to tell you, brother, she was awesome, man. So I want to come up with something like that. Who are the best lovers, right? That might be a nice good show for real brothers.
Off top, I'm gonna say 40 to 45. That's me.
40 to 45. You ain't talking 50s because they hitting menopause, men on pause stage.
Some of that.
Those be the exceptions. Those be the exceptions.
You see how I said that with a straight face? All of the men on
funny. So Commission Adept,
Yo, I'm gonna tell you, man, don't sleep on them. Don't sleep on them 50-year-olds, brother.
Hey, son, that's what I was just going to tell you.
They know how to work. They know how to do their work. They work that.
Hold on. The reason I'm saying that is because 50s is not like it was in goddamn 80s. It's totally different. It's not like it was in the 80s, brother.
They working out.
These women don't know nothing about no slip. They don't know what a slip is.
Right.
They don't know.
These are not like the 80s 50 women. The 80s, man. The 1980s, the 90s, no.
So let me tell you something. This is what it's all about. The one in the 50s know what you want.
There you go.
What to do.
There you go. That's why I said I want the older brothers. Let's not do it here. We don't want to do it now. But that's why I said I want the older brothers, man. You know?
Let's do that. Let's do that.
What you mean, let's do that?
You ready to
go? I just turned 51 August 22nd.
All right, you in the club.
4 days ago, I turned 51.
I'm 50. I'm still a baby.
Oh, okay.
You in the club.
OG.
Oh,
too young.
Hold on. The YNs be like, yo, what's up, OG? I'm like, yo, y'all see me as old? Like, but you know what? I love these little YNs. These little YNs are more respectful than we were when we were kids, yo.
One thing I would tell you is they'll make sure your belly is full. They're gonna cook for you. They're gonna run your water for you. All of that.
They're gonna let you fall into it.
Hey, son, you left out the most important part.
Yeah. That's right.
They're gonna make sure the sack is empty.
She's gonna put you to sleep. You'll be over there drooling on the pillow when you're done.
Yeah. Before we go.
And that's what I know. Question. See, when they get 50, they're unapologetic. They
don't feel like a baby. You don't feel baby fresh.
Not thinking about how you feel about. I'm not doing this and that, But I got one rule. See, and I don't know about nobody else. How we gonna save it for the next show?
There you go. And so with that, I'm gonna have my brother Kemetian take us out of here, brother. Close us out.
Yeah, brother. Also, I think he finna ask me something.
Hey, I like that comment. That's right, brother. I like that comment. Older women don't say I don't do that.
Right. That's what I just said. They unapologetic.
Right.
So before we go, I just want to make sure
we
touch on just a little bit of the hymn to Aten. Because this is why I say I give a little bit of pushback. It says,
that's all right.
I just want to get the first part, and then our brother can take us out. It says he, splendid you rise in the light land of the sky. O living Aten, creator of life, you have dawned in the eastern light land. You fill every land with your beauty. The vizier is saying this. You are beauteous, mighty, and radiant. Let's go down a little further. There you go. You are beauteous, mighty, and radiant, risen high over every land. Your rays embrace the lands to the limit of all that you made. Being Ra, you reach their end. So in the hymn to Aten, you're going to hear different Neteru besides Aten. And this is why I give pushback that Akhenaten is a monotheist per se as a henotheist. And let our brother take us out of here.
Yes, sir. And we actually addressed some of that. And I see that, brother, because henotheism deal with the fact that the Neteru is attached to nature and they are one. So we go into the aspects of what we say, how they have divine attributes in the concept of Islam. So these divine attributes took on characteristics of everything in creation, people, places, things. That's meta. So the language of God coming forth from one God would be of himself. That's like me speaking. I'm speaking right now, with my voice, but it's still coming from one individual. And it's the same as if you were to look at, the concept of the monotheistic approach, but yet speak of the Neteru in that oneness. they still come from the same source. And the Kemetian degree is what Akhenaten actually raised, you know, the Aten concept as being a universal expression. In fact, so much so, if you remember, beloved brother M. Carr, he spoke on basically how this is not the deity of the Kemetians alone, or Kemetians alone, but also, you know, the deity of those who are foreigners. You know, so we can look at this as being expression of that the light of the sun shines on everything in creation. So Ra is a part of Aten, because Ra and Aten is both sun, a solar principle. You know, and even other natures, like I was speaking earlier, when they speak of the body, and I was addressing somebody in the audience, that the body that we have, you know, we say arm, leg, arm, head, symbolically, you know, the 5% and the Moors, we say this, but that's really saying the same thing. These are natures,
attributes
in one body. You know what I mean? So it's just like when you say henotheism, in the highest degree and respect of that, you know, that's all the deities that are coming forth under that same divine light, carrying that same divine life. You know, and that's why you have them in the rays. Go ahead, brother.
Let me ask you, because I know you're finna leave, so I need to ask you. So that kind of reminded me when I was reading the Monotheism by Ra'u Neferhamen. He said in the Hebrew, you have the supreme deity Elohim, but yet you got Raphael, Gabriel, all with the L name, Hanel, Daniel, all with L's. And so when he called his back, like one movement, it goes back to the L.
Yes, sir. Okay. Well, you know, in all simplicity, let's do it like this. You hear Masons use the term grand architect of the universe, right? Yep. Now let's think of an architect, and they use that as symbolic to God. If you know anything about working on a job site, and you got the architect, then you have those who are various different trades working on the job. But who is getting the credit for the job being done at the end of the day?
The architect.
The architect.
Yeah.
You know, and it's the same thing if we put this in the, you see what I'm saying? We put that in the context with the, you know, the concept of Neteru working under the guise of Neter. Because in Islam, it specifically states that Allah sent out the angels and they gathered up the dust. And some did this and some did that. In the Moorish Holy Quran, we said that Elohim is the one who created man. Under the guidance of God, you feel me? We also say Elohim was the one that made the devil, and but that's still a part and parcel of God. You feel me?
Just like you just said, the Elohim, like when I was talking about the Raphael, all of them had different attributes that they had. One was Hanel, he was doing this. Raphael was doing that. Gabriel, all of them had different. I get it, but the architect was L.
That the architect was L. That's right.
Commissioner, I got
right.
Commissioner, I got one question for you. Okay.
Let me ask you this.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, good brother.
Listen, excuse me, war child. Let me just ask Commissioner this. Through all your teaching and through all what you have learned, through all these religions and through everything, Commissioner, and I need you to be 100 with me because I feel that you are like that. What does it profit a man to learn all these things or either be deceived? What is the gain for? It's so many different distractions and so many different roads. In your opinion, there's not a right, in my opinion. In your opinion, is there a right?
You know, right or wrong.
All right. Close us out. Take us out, brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I'll close you out in the answer, Brother Santan. There is no right or wrong answer.
Thank you.
There are just different degrees of unfoldment and where we at the time. And though we perceive something is wrong, it may be because where we at as man unfold is God unfold. So I give honors to you, brother. And Sa, we give honors to you.
Thank you, man.
Hopefully our people.
That deserves an exposure right there. That deserves
perfect answer, man. Perfect answer. You're not.
Yes, sir. Unity is key. So we give honors to Sa for allowing us to come here. And family, I just want you to know in my closing, my only intent is to show you where we want it. And so people can take the information and come together and agree upon what we have in common. It's never to tear down any particular measure, But in giving the truth, we got to tell the truth as it is. So it's some ugly things that happen throughout a lot of historical measures, you know, when we get into this modern aspect. But I like to go back to the pristine purity before this stuff became out of whack like it is. And so most of my research is going to always be given from the aspect of going to the root of the information as far as back that I can find it. And I'm going to present that to our people in the most honest way as possible, you know. So that being said, you know, peace and love, family. You know, unity is key. And we'll see y'all again. Thank you, Sal.
Right. Peace and blessings, brother. Peace and blessings. We out of here, y'all. All right, real quick, everybody. My email is right there. It's on the screen. If y'all have anything that y'all would love to see a panel discussion, email me. See, this is where I come to the people. I mean, I always try to include the family. If y'all have any topics that y'all would like for us to have a panel on, bring it here, email me. I'll look over all of them and see which one we would like to take on. All right? So let's get it in. Indigenous said he wanted to hear mine. He want to hear about the older women versus the younger women. I know, brother. I know. But if anybody out there would like to hear any panel discussion topics, email it to me, and we're going to get it in. We can agree to disagree without being disrespectful. Peace and blessings to you and yours family, brother. All right, he's speaking to my brother. They cool, they peace. That's what's up. All right, so without any further ado, we out of here, man. Peace. So I remember who had the Mac Daddy line. Yeah, I know. Remember, y'all. Shout out to Patah. Our brother Patah in here. Aten. Tahuti. Shout out to you, brother. Shout out to you. All right. Yo, email me the topic y'all want, and we're going to get it in. We out.